back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler here with Johnny. Johnny, what's going on?
Oh, Tyler, just chilling out in my super well air-conditioned home.
Wow.
It's super hot in California.
That sounds like you spent a lot of money getting solar panels, and you really wanted to talk about it for 5 minutes to let everybody know how your power bills are going to be reduced.
I did. That's exactly it. But we don't need to go into any details. Like, we're definitely not going to talk about kilowatt hours, monthly spend, what California's like, what kind of system I got. We're not going to do any of that. Just know that I spent all of my money on solar. Hooray!
It sounds like it will generate a pretty good return on investment, though.
It sure will. But I don't think we want to... Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about ROI, I think this is probably the episode.
You caught it. You almost didn't catch it, but you caught it.
I got it. I got there. So, are we just jumping in? Are we done with small talk? You didn't even tell me what's going on with you.
What's going on? I'll tell you what I'm buying and playing, Johnny. It's what's going on with me. Like, my company is laying off like a significant portion of people, and they took away my PTO, and I have unlimited PTO, which really just means like you can now use a max of the amount of PTO that you used to have, but if you use more than that, it's gonna be pretty sus. So no matter what, less people take PTO. Johnny, I'm mad about what's happening at my company.
You should be mad. What, they took your PTO?
They're moving to an unlimited system. So, like, unlimited PTO is a scam because no one is going to, like, if you had 25 days a year, no one on planet Earth is going to take more than 25 days a year. But now you look better as an employee if you take less than 25 days a year. So, obviously, people take less PTO on average. So it's just a scam.
Yeah, that's a bullshit. Like, companies aren't magnanimous. They're not like nice things that like love the people, as a general rule. So anytime they do something that looks like it's good for workers, I am super suspicious on how it's being weaponized against the workers.
I mean, everybody knows that unlimited PTO is not good for workers. There's been multiple actual real studies on it. I thought my company was better than that, I guess, but we're tightening up our bootstraps, I guess.
Oh, good.
Whatever. I like my job, unfortunately, so I can't complain because I do kind of like my job.
Yeah, I like my job a lot too. It would be very stressful if they started monkeying around with it like that. Yeah. Oh, also, I put my child into, kindergarten. So that's very exciting. That's been a very stressful process. You're never going to experience it most likely, but yeah, I don't know how people actually with like kids do this. This is so much work. How are people like multiple kids? I just saw parents on like the campus and they were just like there with like 4 kids and they just like, they looked like they lived there. It was like, oh yeah. Like, I think they have their own parking spaces.
Yeah, it seems stressful. I don't know. It's a good thing.
It's
like,
wild.
You're the last generation, Johnny. Gen Z, they're just not having kids. It sounds like none of them are even getting married. They're just gonna live on social media, I guess.
I guess, dude. I didn't even understand it was like this. There's like this. There's a bunch of rules and like parking and like all kinds of paperwork. Do you know what happened? Do you know how I went to school? Because I went to over 20 schools, right, as a kid, like closer to 30. Here's how it went if I got enrolled into a school. Like, literally, my mom would just show up at the school and be like, this kid needs to go to school. And they were just like, okay, what's his name? And then they would push me in a classroom. That's it.
Back in my day, things were so much simpler before these computers and these regulations.
That's not what this is. This is more of like, they just did not give a F. They did not care.
Dude, that kid's got to learn some stuff.
No, it's like, whatever, put him in a class. They didn't ask like how I did prior to this. They're just like, well, I'll figure it out. What grade you supposed to be in? I didn't even go to 5th grade. I went to 0 5th grade.
Johnny, that sounds like both a lot of work to put on the teachers like 30 years ago. And if you add even more paperwork on top of that, that's a lot even more work to put on the teachers now. So it is really good that we pay teachers a whole lot of money.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you never hear about teachers being dissatisfied with their wages. And you also don't hear like a large contingent of people being like, oh, man, why do we pay teachers so much? Do you understand the people who want to fight about teacher salaries? And they're like, but they get the summer off, but they keep shortening the summer. Like, do people even understand?
Is that a real thing? Do people argue that they get like time off? That's the argument.
Yeah. They're like, oh, well, yeah, because your salary is based on on like less time a year. And like, they're like, oh, in school.
Because they
like
do literally nothing during the summer. It's just like 8 weeks of vacation, right?
Dude, yeah, like school starts in August and it ends at the end of June. Like what, it's barely anything.
We love you, teachers. Collector's Quest, we're big into teachers. I don't know why you chose the hardest career path possible, but we appreciate you for it.
Dude, I mean, I was going to be a teacher. You know this, right? I told you this. This was my career path.
I don't remember that.
Oh yeah. So I have a master's in education. Cool, right?
Pretty
Super cool. Cool. But I got that right when California decided to lay off all of the teachers. So when that happened, I was like, I went back to school, got my master's. I'm like, I'm gonna go be a teacher. Then they laid off all the teachers, and the job they offered me was like in LA Unified, which is like a nightmare zone, and I was never doing that. So I was like, okay, I guess I will just go get a different job. And instantly I got like an entry level, like with college, like some college job that was paying me more than a beginner's teacher's salary instantly. And then I just joined the workforce and never became a teacher and made much more money and definitely spent less hours working.
You kind of screwed up. You could have pivoted into library science and then really had the job that we both really want.
Library science is a thing I really talked about for a long time, but I was going to, because you get a doctorate there. So I was like, oh, like I'll go do this. It was a real thing. Like I explored courses. I had applications filled out. Like no joke. I was going to be in library science. And then again, there wasn't a lot of library science jobs available.
There aren't. I like every time I read about one, I'm like, oh my God, this looks like the perfect job. And then I look into like how many museum jobs are there? And it's like, oh, not that much. Maybe I shouldn't pivot my entire career to being like a museum curator person. But they archivist? Do seem like they have the coolest jobs. Yes, like archivists and stuff.
Yeah, all I want to be is an archivist. That's it. That's like all I want. It's like, oh man, could I just go work in someone's archive? That would be awesome.
If you send me back like 1,000 years, just like if I'm like a slave, like working on the pyramids or what, I don't know when the pyramids are built, probably more than 1,000 years ago. But like, just put me in like the big room with all the scrolls and just be like, Tyler, you must sort all the scrolls, and I'll be like, yes, let's organize this crap. Awesome.
Yeah. They're like, can you make a list of this and then just like sort it out? I'm like, and you'll pay me? Great.
Well, no, I'll be a slave, but
yeah. Well,
it'll be rewarding work seeing it all get organized in the end.
Yeah, until someone decides they hate your organization, and then like have you read into like why things aren't well organized? It's because like one ruler would come in and they'd be like, I want everything organized this way, and then they would be removed, and then the next person would come in and then change the system.
But that's fair though. I mean, come on, if you walked in your game room, like say you just became the ruler of whatever, and your game room was now organized with like the Dewey Decimal System, you'd be like, no, organize it by console alphabetically. What are you talking about? Take all of this down. And then your little archivist would be like, oh, but I spent so long putting it up with the Dewey Decimal System. But no, the Dewey Decimal System's bullshit.
But part of the problem was like the same people wouldn't even be in charge of it. Like the whole system would just be wiped out and it like wouldn't even be completed a lot of the time. So it'd be just like half systems. And so you just had these buildups. Yeah, it's crazy.
All right. So, this isn't what they would do 2,000 years ago. So the first thing we're going to do is have a research study into the most efficient system. And then future generations can look at that study and understand why we picked what we did. And it's not just the whims of the king.
Uh-huh. Sure. How's the metric system panned out for us?
I'd say it's panned out for the world pretty well.
Oh, I mean, how about for us over here? Would you like, and then in Britain, would you like to measure things in the weight of stones?
I mean, Britain, that's the worst. At least America's consistent.
Yeah. Would you like to measure things in feet over here? We can measure things in how much a stone weighs and how big the king's foot is. Great.
So Johnny, that return on investment on that solar system, we're talking about the wonderful world of investing in video games. Kinda.
Okay. Yeah. So can I just go into how I thought this episode would go?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So first off, There's before I even get into that, I have one question for you before you go on.
Yeah.
Okay. Why won't you let me talk about how PCE Works killed TurboGrafx 16 collecting?
This is what I thought we were going to talk. I knew you had a question at the beginning of this episode. What are you talking about? So you mentioned that you were going to ask me this. PCE Works killed TurboGrafx collecting? What are you talking about?
Because with all of their reprints and making it hard and not labeling their reprints and all the bullshit, just lowering the value of high value games. Like if you look at Magical Chase, the value has become significantly depressed, which is this thing we'll talk about later in the episode.
Aren't most of their repros for like PC Engine anyway? Like, yeah, they've got Magical Chase.
No, they do TG16 releases.
Yeah, but they do like the games that never existed to begin with mostly, and Magical Chase, I realize.
No, they do all the high-end ones. All the Shadowgate? Beyond Shadowgate, redone.
All right. So you're saying that they killed TurboGrafx collecting? Yeah.
I think they have made it significantly worse and a much worse investment than it would be to have they had not entered the market so hard.
Johnny, I hate to tell you this. TurboGrafx collecting is maybe not as popular as it could be because it's the TurboGrafx 16, a video game console most people our age weren't aware of, and everybody younger than us is not aware of.
No, Tyler, it's PCE Works. They did it to us.
I'm just sorry. Let's do a little early look. I'm going to bring up just price charting for TurboGrafx. Does price charting even track TurboGrafx? Is it under other platforms?
They do. I don't know if they have it broken out into CIC versus CIB though.
I just realized I've never looked at a TurboGrafx game on price charting. I can't even find the console. Let me go bring up Magical Chase and get it from there. It's not doing that bad. I mean, it has dropped from the peak more than other consoles, I guess. And it hasn't really spiked as hard as it hasn't spiked nearly as hard as other consoles. But that makes sense because who cares?
I'm just saying, because PCE Works during this time, during all the spike, started releasing more. Before they were around just releasing stuff, but now they're all over. Now it's all over eBay. Anyways, if you haven't checked it out for yourself, go look up PCE Works and then see all the repros they've made and then try to differentiate what's real and what's not. They've just made collecting turbo harder. So really, I just wanted to do a PSA about PCE Works.
It is very difficult to tell PCE Works. So they really try to make one-to-one bootlegs. Some of them I think are marked in some way, but the vast majority of them they are making counterfeits. They are trying to make them one-to-one. And you're talking minor font differences, a line of text that's 8 centimeters or 7 centimeters that they fucked up. Really minor things between a bunch of the PCE Works things. Yeah. So it sucks. And WATA has graded a PCE Works Dracula X on PC Engine, which does not feel good, especially because that's the main thing you would want them to do in terms of authenticating PC Engine and Turbo games is to spot PCE Works repros. PCE Works killed TurboGrafx collecting. They're still in business apparently. Every Black Friday they have a sale. Do not buy anything from PCE Works. If you haven't been paying attention and you just keep hearing us say PCE Works, no, this is a scam company that is doing bad things for game collecting. Making one-to-one repros as exact as possible to counterfeit games that cost $10,000 is not a good thing. It's not sticking it to the man. It's ripping off the collector who really wants a Magical Chase and then happens to buy a fake one for $10,000.
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance they have some sort of licensing deal? How have they not been stopped?
No, there's no way they have a licensing deal. Because who owns Konami probably isn't even aware of them in terms of ripping off Dracula X. Who owns Magical Chase? That's Hudson. Who owns Hudson's thing? Is that Konami as well?
I have no idea.
One of the super knowledgeable people in the Discord are going to be like, what, you guys don't know who owns Hudson Soft? I was obviously bought by Konami back in 2003.
I mean, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're owned by Konami. So it's just Konami doesn't care. All the games they're pirating are Konami games now, so they just don't care.
Yeah, Konami famously does not give a shit. They're just out there doing whatever they do. Yep. Anyways, I did have a real question. This episode actually started with one real question. You posted some stuff in the Discord, and that made me just want to revisit this as an idea. I mean, we talk about investing in graded games a little bit, but that's not usually our bent. But I wanted to know, are video games a good investment? Did they become a good investment? Did they fail at being a good investment? Where do we really stand? What does the landscape kind of look like for that? And then you went your own way with it. Like you started different level. And I'm not mad about that, but you, as the kids say, were cooking, and I wanted to just let you cook. So we got some stuff to talk about, but I also, before we got into all the stuff that we diverged from, I did ask this question to a friend of the show, Josh Byerly, and he sent me an answer. Would you like to hear Josh's answer?
Absolutely. I have a lot of respect for that Josh Byerly.
Same. One of my favorite collectors, because I know if anyone's going to buy the same kind of stupid garbage I am, it's going to be Josh. And he's going to love it. And he's going to buy other stuff. And, he again, just the love. He loves buying the stuff. It's not just like, oh, he's an investor. He's got so much dumb stuff. And I love it so much.
I think he perfectly straddles the line between having like the mint sealed, super desirable stuff and the sealed, like collector brain stuff that normal people don't actually care about. And then the actual garbage that no one will ever care about that he just loves because it's garbage.
Yeah, I love it. It's he's in a pretty unique position collector wise. Not a lot of guys like Josh anymore. Anyways, here is Josh's answer, and I'm just going to read word for word. So forgive me if I fumble some of this. Hard question to answer quickly, but the short of it: video games are a fine investment if you aren't an idiot. I think we saw some come up on prices because the perfect storm of new grading companies for video games and COVID. Video game collecting is not on the radar of the masses and may never be, but the minute that new speculation takes over on pop culture nostalgia, we see price movement. In the case of video games, it moved big. When shit cools, it cools. There's an ebb and flow to it all. Not a bubble that bursts. If you were here for the investment of buying an item and hoping it will go up in value, then buy smart. Buy raw shit, sit on eBay and look for deals. If that doesn't work, get off your ass and be the first one at a garage sale or a small convention. If that doesn't work, go find something else to speculate on. Most importantly, learn. Talk to people that know shit. Don't buy Slash Maddens or Majesco. I agree with you and Tyler.
Is he talking to my heart there?
Yes, he is. He says specifically, I agree so much with you and Tyler on this. Also, if you're in it for the investment, make it one. Don't buy it today and hope you can 10x in 6 months. If you're able to do that, you're not smart, you're lucky. He says, I don't know if I really answered this, but if you treat it like an investment, if that's your goal, then treat it like an investment. Don't treat it like someone you want to date, but don't want to introduce to your mother. Treat the investment like the girl you want to introduce to your mother. The snapshot we've seen over the last 4 to 5 years is a small one. Before WATA came around, you could snag a sealed Super Mario Bros. 3 for $200-$300. You'll never be able to do that again. It just won't happen. Prices have gone up, and while many went way up and then came way back down, they are still overall up from 5 years ago. Way up. But ultimately, don't we all want to think our shit is worth more than we paid for it deep down? And somehow we like to think that we didn't spend or waste our money, but instead we parked it. And maybe that's just the insane, that's the insane disease part of it. So that's Josh's answer on video game collecting. I think that's a good general statement for all of us. Again, if you want to be an investor, then you should act as an investor, not as someone who's just going to get free tendies handed out to them because they spent some money, because that's not really how it works.
I want to know if you're investing, if you're treating this like an investment, and he's saying don't buy dumb shit, but like, all right, I'm picking on a game that I don't even think sold for as much as it could have. Hang Tab Ikari Warriors. Maybe an iconic NES game, certainly a rare sealed game. Who, in that theoretical 10 years from now, like, who is the market for sealed Ikari Warriors expanding or contracting? In 20 years, like, what's the time scale for when you have to get out of this investment? Because it's certainly not like an investment you hold until you're retired, because at some point the world will stop caring about Ikari Warriors no matter what.
True, but I don't think he means it like that. I think it doesn't mean don't buy and then sell quickly. I think it means you have to be smart enough and knowledgeable enough to gauge the market, because sometimes you invest and I'm riding the wave right now and it's time to get off and then park my money somewhere else. He's saying that you have to know and treat it like investments. You can't just be like, it's going to go up forever. Because that's not really how investments work either.
Yeah, they
So-
do, Johnny. Let me tell you
Oh.
about the S&P 500. It just goes up forever. Stocks never go down, baby. Forget about like the couple times that they did.
In general,
Overall, we're up,
sure.
baby.
Yeah, sure. In general, that's true. But, when people talk about the stock market always going up, they fail to recognize the thousands of individual components all in there, and not all of them went up. Some of them went up a whole lot, and others crashed into the floor and never came back and then died. So be careful which one you're picking.
That's why we diversify. And
It's true.
that's why when I buy video games, I buy every sealed PS2 game. I have the full sealed set because some of them will go up, some of them will go down. But overall, you can't tell me it won't go up, Johnny.
Okay.
I have so many EA Sports games. What's going on? I don't have a sealed PS2 set, just to be clear.
Yeah. That is
thank
not,
you,
yeah,
Josh,
that's
for your
not
input.
not real investment advice. Don't do what Tyler just said. Anyways, yeah, thanks, Josh. I'm hoping to wire into our show once in a while a segment where we ask Josh whether a game is a good investment or not. I've told you the name, and I want you to tell me honestly what you think about it. To buy early or not to buy early? Tyler?
Yep, that's what a name.
Yeah,
I thought it was to buy or not to buy early. I don't know, Johnny.
That either or is fine. Something like that.
All right. That's fine. That's what we'll name the segment. We'll talk to Josh in the future. If you guys don't know, Josh is the host of one of the most popular video game collecting podcasts on the planet, because there really aren't that many. The Video Game Collectors Podcast on YouTube. If you like sealed games and this heritage auction stuff, you already listened to it because it's like the only podcast about that stuff, as far as I know.
They have video though, so you could actually look at their faces.
They do. They're more of like a sit and browse the internet and show you what's going on. We're more of a, you're on a 4-hour road trip and you want something put on in the background that's mostly about video games.
Yeah.
Anyways. I can't forget is John Hopper's podcast, which he has changed the name of multiple times. That is also about video game collecting. And Bird Dog Gaming. And the Tiger and Wolf podcast, Johnny.
Oh yeah.
Dozens of listeners.
Yeah, all of them.
We love
us
Tiger.
too. Well, I love all of these people. Well, not Hopper. He's not like, I don't really know John Hopper, so I can't like really put him in that classification.
He's great. What an attitude. That guy's got the best attitude.
You love him. Yeah, I know. Like, you legitimately do. I don't know.
All right. We're in the middle of a heritage auction signature auction, which they have like 3 or 4 times a year. And it's when they sell all the actually good stuff. Because if you go to heritage auctions during their weekly auction, especially we're in a pretty ho-hum time in the video game market. Like it's both kind of the complete in box and sealed stuff. Both of it is pretty ho-hum. And you go into these weekly auctions and man, if you see a sealed game that has better than an A seal, it's probably like a 7.0 A+, because there's just like late prints and just mediocre stuff in these weekly auctions. So when you want the good stuff...
Hold on.
Yeah.
Tell people what that means.
What that means? Okay, let's...
tell us like what is an A seal?
So yeah, the Johnny, the sealed graded video games. You send your sealed games to these companies, CGC and WATA. We're gonna pretend VJ doesn't exist. They're fine too, and they will give your game a number grade and a letter grade. And the letter grade can be like B, B+, A+, or A++. And if you're buying a sealed game, you want it because it's like the best example of this game that it could possibly be. And man, A seals are sometimes like a little bit raggedy, a little bit scratched up. Sometimes they have like a moderate sized hole in it, even though, according to some of the descriptions, they're not supposed to.
Why isn't this just a 5? Why aren't we using numbers here?
I don't know why. I like it. I like being able to easily differentiate what the box grade is versus the seal grade.
Why do you need to, like, what? You can't read 3 sets of numbers?
No,
the box is a 10. The card is a 10. The seal is a 10. It is the one thing that we changed the number for.
I mean, blame Dennis Kahn because he probably came up with the system because he based it on comics, but then he made this separate system for seals.
Dude, I I literally hate this so much. And especially when you do A plus and A plus plus, because if you see an A, it's not intuitive. If you don't know what you're doing, you think an A is a good grade, don't you? You're like, I got an A. That's great. I got an A. You've been trained your whole life to think the A is a good, and you're over here telling me A is kind of dog shit, and I don't love that.
So I haven't talked to as many people in like the sealed area as much as I have in say like 2 years ago. But yeah, my opinion has always been A is just trash. If you're buying a sealed game, just like skip every A. It doesn't even matter. Like any A plus is fine. Like some A pluses are better than others, but whatever. If it's A plus, it's basically a fine sealed game. And then when it gets down to the numbers are super inflated too. Like I think basically 9.4 is like a really good near mint box, and then like 9.2 sometimes kind of dicey. Like you'd think like, oh, 9 and up is probably fine, but no, it's like 9s can be kind of dicey sometimes. And then once you get into the 8s, it's like, forget about it. Meanwhile, when you look at comics are crazy because you look at the difference between like a 7 and a 9.4, and you're like, oh yeah, the 7's a little bit different, I guess. And that's not at all the same in video games. Case in point, the Nintendo World Championships Gold that just sold for $207,000, it didn't have the label. And yes, the label is small, but it's like a comic missing the cover. If a comic is missing the cover, it can't even get like a 1.0, I don't think. It's like an automatic 0.5. But in video games, that's a 4.0 still.
Yeah, and they said the cart was really a 7.
Go look at a 4.0 comic book. You will never see a comic book that is nearly as incomplete as that 4.0 Nintendo World Championships Gold. 4.0 comic books look fine. Especially like Golden Age. Like I would be so happy with a 4.0 Golden Age comic book. Yeah. Give me a 4.0 Action Comics #1. I'm there.
Please. Man, you know how well you'd be doing if you had an Action Comics at a 4.0?
No, I don't know how well I'd be doing because I would keep it, Johnny, because that would be cool.
Oh, okay. Anyways, Tyler,
right, Johnny.
where are we going from here? Take me on a journey.
Let's talk about some of the signature sales, see how the market's doing, see if we're doing good in our investments, how we feel about these sales, maybe get some vibes. Also, I do want to be very clear, Johnny just does not care about this market, and I'm like mostly a spectator on the sides. Like I watch these sealed sales. I'm not buying $20,000 sealed games. In this, I do have a bid. There is a sticker sealed Donkey Kong, a game I have shit on forever because the NES port is garbage. And then at some point I'm like, but I probably should just own Donkey Kong, right? And so now I want one.
I love the turnaround.
So I've bid on a couple of them on eBay and Heritage, and I've lost them all. I want a deal on it, man. I don't want to spend like they go for like $1,800 sometime. Like, give me like that surprise sale that goes for like 2/3 of the market price. I'm putting bids on this until I win it for like that. I'm not overpaying for freaking NES Donkey Kong.
Have you considered maybe getting Donkey Kong Classic, seeing as that's a better port and has more stuff on it?
You know what you really should buy, which would cost you less than this NES Donkey Kong port, is a Donkey Kong Arcade PCB. Yeah. I mean, or the cabinet. Yeah, if you actually, I mean, yeah. Oh, you could buy an arcade cabinet for about the same price. For the first print arcade PCB, Johnny, you need the first print cabinet. That's going to be probably $10,000.
Well, I mean, you could probably get the PCB right, like slabbed and looking nice, and just have like put a nice label on it. Are you surprised that there isn't more of that, like cases for like the arcade PCBs that like do something and put like the front art of the game on it?
I have spoken to arcade collectors who are like scared that will be a thing one day. I don't think it will be. It seems so stupid. Like, if you are going to encase an arcade PCB, like, who cares about the grade? Like, if you want to put like some kind of label on it and say like, oh, this is an authentic PCB, and like have a picture or something, but like let us take it out and play it or something. Like, don't slap an arcade PCB forever. That's crazy.
I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be great, but I'm thinking of like acrylic cases something that looks like, the front on it, and just like, okay, like, oh, this is the game. Like, look how cool this is.
I mean, you think of like an NES collection, the most basic collection, or like a PS2 collection. It's like this wonderful, colorful thing. And like, can you imagine? Like, there's already arcade collectors, and like their collections basically look like the garage or the workshop because it's just arcade PCBs and CRTs on shelves. Like, how are you going to make that look nice if they're all in acrylic cases? What are you going to point them face out on a shelf? Check out this bare PCB. Oh, what's this? Let me look at the tiny label. Oh, this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No, you put like a big wrap on the back that has the art so you can put the art out.
Oh, no, you're not even going to look at the PCB? Oh.
No, you can turn it over if you want to see the PCB.
Oh my God. You just gave me the business model. You have to send an original marquee with the PCB, and they slab the marquee on top of the PCB.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Like something like, I mean, maybe the marquee or the side art, just like on the back, and you're like,
no,
oh, okay,
no,
cool.
It has to be an original marquee.
Okay.
I don't want no printed bullshit.
Okay.
You have to send the marquee. And this is a $1 million business opportunity. If someone wants to make a grading company that's in business for 18 months and then goes bankrupt, this is the perfect opportunity for you. Everyone in the arcade hobby will absolutely hate you for doing this, though.
Let's do it.
I bet you will get 5 to 20 people who purchase your service, though.
There's a bunch of Konami collectors who collect PCBs.
I think there's a bunch of arcade collectors who collect PCBs.
Okay. So why not get them in a nice housing? What's the problem?
This is the worst. How did we get on this topic? I hate this. Do not slab PCBs, but if someone wants to start a company that does it, I will laugh and think it's funny. But you have to slab the marquee with it. Come on, man. All right. Johnny, all right. We're looking at these Heritage Auctions results. Also, I want to clarify that we're generally not looking at Golden Auctions because fuck Golden Auctions. Not because I have anything against Ken Golden, but because they have infrequent video game auctions that are mixed with like other pop culture shit, and I don't know when they happen. Heritage Auctions is easy. They got like the crappy auctions on Tuesdays, and they got the signatures like a couple times a year, and it's all the good video games at once. And Golden is like, the pop culture thing. We've got this Grateful Dead concert poster and this sealed iPhone, and I don't want to bother looking at Golden Auctions. I'm sorry. So
okay.
Because
I
said that, this podcast is now sponsored by Heritage Auctions. Send your video games to Heritage Auctions so Tyler will actually bother to look at them.
Okay, let's not do that. But did you look at PWCC, and by that I mean Fanatics Collect?
Do they still sell video games?
They do still sell video games.
Oh, okay. Fanatics. Do they really think they're breaking into video games? Did they already ruined like baseball jerseys, and now they're probably going to ruin baseball cards, right?
They do not care about this at all, and it's in a subsection just called More.
Johnny, it's been, 5 years since the boom now? Heritage Auctions doesn't have a video game category. It's still listed under comic books, and they still have a dedicated NFT category, and they haven't had an NFT auction in multiple years.
What is wrong with this world?
Dude.
It's like, how are video games an investment if we can't even get a category?
I mean, yeah, every time I think about it, it's just like, yeah, the video games don't matter. And dude, I'm telling you, like, even down to this NWC Gold, like some of the stuff that people are buying, it's the same people that come up. Like I see people saying that they bought certain games, and I'm like, wow, everyone buying this stuff is in this Discord. Everyone is in this Facebook group. It's like, how big is this hobby? Oh, it's very small considering like there's 10,000 Charizards, and we couldn't possibly know who owns all the 10,000 of like the PSA 9 and above first edition Charizards or however many there are. But then this NWC Gold goes to Fire and Ice Games owner Ryan Main, not his real name. But NWC Gold sold for $207,000, Johnny. I think this was on Golden Auctions. This is going to be our one Golden Auction that we cover. My price prediction was $211,000. So if you do want to send me PMs, I'm open for consulting and predicting high-end video game sales.
When are you going to start doing that?
Just send me a PM. I'll do it for free. Just ask me a game. I'll give you the price.
Okay, great.
So the last one. So there was a private sale for an NWC Gold. And it was reported at $350K. And I don't know how this works. Like you make a private sale, and then you have to do a press release about it because you want it to be a big deal that you bought this thing. But, so basically for half the price, you're getting no label on the front. How do you feel about that? Man, I feel like I would rather have the one with the label for $350K. Like a lot. Because without the label, it looks like a Zelda cartridge.
Yeah, I kind of have to have the label here.
There's the label there's at least 2 copies that don't have a label. I can't imagine how you would win this and then lose the label to it. Like, kid, come on. But I guess they didn't have.
That seems crazy, right? Like, I understand they fall off, but even if it fell off, I would have that thing somewhere.
Right? You just like throw it out. You're like, oh damn, this whole thing fell off.
Yeah, well, fuck it. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, here's the thing with this. I don't think it's like crazy one way or the other, because if there is a holy grail in the hobby that people will point to, they would point to NWC Gold, one with the label, like a perfect condition, the one that you're thinking of, Pappy NES Punk's copy. I think it's interesting that even the public sale that happened sold for less than the Zelda sold for in this signature auction that's just happening right now. And like, obviously games have sold for multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, over $1 million in the case of Mario 64. Are these 2 sales that just happened basically proving that NWC Gold is no longer the holy grail of video game collecting?
I don't know. Is this just the downturn? Are we just at a downturn where people can't spend this kind of money on this thing? Or is it like, are we truly in the Mario is the only thing that matters world?
NWC is a Mario game.
I kind of,
and it's an NES game. Like, this should be like, this has stuff going for it. It's just,
I have long said I think the NWC is the coolest Nintendo item.
Yeah,
hands down. Like, I think it's like, as a kid, I like saw that and I was like, man, that is the coolest thing. I always thought the gray was trash. I'm like, but that gold is awesome. Even though the gray is the one that actually did the work.
So you probably remember, because we've both talked about this. It used to be interesting when you heard whispers about people buying and selling NWC. I was like a teenager at this point. You were in your 20s, but we were on forums because, social media didn't exist yet. And you never see like an NWC on eBay, or maybe there'll be one and it'll be priced at like $20,000, which would be like clearly a crazy price. So you didn't know like where do these come up? How do people get these? And like when you heard someone like get one, it's like, whoa, there's like these backroom deals going on in video game collecting, like stuff that's selling off of eBay that's like not even put up for public sale. This is crazy, right? And it doesn't feel like that anymore, because every few months there's another NWC for sale on one of these high-end auction sites, and they've been going like, they're like the same price. They're like only $50,000 to $70,000, something like that. It doesn't feel like as insane to like. I mean, obviously, $50,000 is a crazy price to pay for a video game, but it doesn't feel insane to see one come up. But now that's how I feel about the NWC Golds, is that like, holy shit, these never come up. This is the first one to come up for sale in a public auction in 10 years, more than 10 years, I think. And right before it, there's like this secret backroom thing that goes on. Like, there's a private sale for $350,000. It's nostalgic. Feels like how I used to feel about NWCs, like gray NWCs.
Yeah, it does feel like that. I'll grant you that. I think you nailed it there. NWCs became too common, which is a very weird thing to say.
They're just too common. For as common as they are, quote unquote, there's I think there's 90, there's like officially like 92 of them or something. Joe will give us the exact number. There's like 92 of them that we know to exist. Still hitting that $60K. That's a pretty good price considering how quote unquote common they are.
I mean, how many Charizards did you just say there were?
You see, you're doing this. This is the perfect mindset. If you want to invest in video games, you have to make constant comparisons to trading cards, because, oh my God, there are so many trading cards. How many people collect trading cards? It's insane. How many people collect trading cards? I can't handle. How many people collect trading cards?
I don't know. It's a lot.
I don't know how many like Fleer Jordan rookies there are, but I know it's more than 90, and that card's probably worth like tens of thousands of dollars.
I have no idea.
All right. One other thing I wanted to mention. I think most NWC Golds are in collector hands because they don't trade that often. and we know who owns a bunch of them. And it's like old collector guys. A lot of them are like old Nintendo age guys. Like there's like 4 or 5 of them that are in the hands of like old Nintendo age guys who have not sold them. And this one went to Ryan Main, who is like a collector who owns a game store. He's not like a freaking music poster trading card comic bro. Like he's a investor reseller type, but he's like in the same sphere as us. He's not like a pure, like he's not like a bank, whatever these guys are doing.
I think a lot of it is that the NWC has been, the gold specifically, has been expensive for so long that the people who've had it have enough money to own something like that, so probably don't need to ever sell it to move it on.
I mean, who am I to speak for people's financial situations?
I mean, I don't know either. This is just how I would speculate, right? Like, if you are doing pretty well, you don't need to cash in on a boom of an NWC because that amount of money, like, maybe doesn't matter that much to you, right? Whereas opposed to someone like, I mean, even myself, right? Like, if suddenly my 10,000 game became a $300,000 game, I would have to be like, well, how much do I should probably move this.
If you have an NWC that has a label, that's easily $300,000.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If I have like 10 or 20 or $50,000 into it, right? Let's say I did something crazy 20 years ago and spent $50,000, and now you're telling me it's like 300, 400,000. I have to, in my financial situation, I have to think about that and be like, okay, how much better would my life be if I just did that? Rather than lose
all of your clout immediately.
Yeah,
let me tell you, because you know what, our friend Mike Pitts bought a Stadium Events cartridge, and now whenever you talk to him, you're like, Your Eminence, Mike, you have a Stadium Events, and you wouldn't be able to do that anymore. You would all of a sudden be the guy who sold a Nintendo World Championships. What kind of jerk would you be then?
I mean, the guy who bought a second house.
What? Who are you flexing to then? Your millionaire friends with your yachts and multiple houses? Dude, we're here in the video game collecting hobby.
I would just be looking at it. I'm like, oh, look, my son will always have a place to live when the housing market goes insane and young people can never buy homes because we've made buying a home in America a hellscape proposition.
To conclude on this,
too much realism?
I think, in my eyes, like, Nintendo World Championships is diminished this year because there are so many high-end sales of mostly like Zelda and Mario that have gone for more than this, which is so interesting, you know, that like kind of a regular game is on top of even Nintendo World Championships gold. That is interesting.
Super Mario 64?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, gross.
But before I call it, I don't want to call it based on those two sales. I want someone, I mean, now that like these are trading hands all of a sudden, I want one with a label to come up for auction because I do still think the sky could be the limit for one with a label. Because if you had $10 million to spend on Nintendo World Championships and you like, I don't know, you didn't have any connections for some reason, like you don't want the one with no label, probably. So I still think like, what if one with label comes up and it sells for $1 million? I'm not going to be surprised. And that like $350,000 one seems like an amazing deal.
Yeah, I
think that's super speculative. I mean, I've been very on the record saying that like the Nintendo World Championships 1990 itself does not matter much in historical context. So this is not, I wouldn't spend $350,000 and make that bet, but I do think it could end up being a very good bet. I think actually the $350,000 sale looks pretty good next to the $200,000 sale for one without a label.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I don't have anything.
Can't think, Johnny, name one game that you would rip the label off to get and have bought it for half price.
No,
there's not a single game you would do that for.
No,
let alone the biggest game.
No, absolutely not. It's true. But like maybe the person buying it, since it's the first one, they're desperate. Like, does the desperation like take into a factor? Does it elevate that price because it's the first one? Like, I think the guy who spent this money is going to be happier than the guy who spent all that money on the Mario 64.
I think we can counteract that, Johnny, because he was posting on social media during the auction, and he said he was sweating his bid. This wasn't like a last second bid. He had this bid in for like at least an hour, I think. And he said that he was sweating it because he was going to have to sell a bunch of stuff to be able to afford it. That doesn't strike me as someone who was like dying to own this at any price. It almost seemed like he was hoping he would be outbid.
Yeah. What a horrible position to be in. I would hate that feeling.
It's just so easy to click that bid button.
I mean,
do you get into these? If you get into the live heritage auction, Johnny, I just want you to get swept up in something and be like, oh, what do you mean? I spent $800 on that. What the fuck? That's an Atari game. I want you to like bid on the wrong thing. Oh, I want you to have so much fun, Johnny.
I don't
just spend all your money on this crap.
That makes me feel sick to my stomach already. Just thinking about it.
So I know you've never been on heritageauctions.com. So when you log into an auction, there's 3 buttons in a row. There's the bid button, which you press once and it just bids. That's it. You've bid. There's a button in the middle that disables the bid buttons. And then to the right of that is another bid button. It's the half bid button. So you got 2 bid buttons and you got the disable button in the middle. So you better not miss, because then you might bid $45,000 on the Mario that's currently up for auction.
What is the half bid button? What are you talking about?
Dude, all these auction sites, if you haven't been to high-end auction sites, they all have these stupid-ass rules. Like, the auction gets extended sometimes, and, like, sometimes people who already bid on the item are the only people who can bid in the extended time. Sometimes everybody can bid in the extended time. On Heritage Auctions, I think once per lot, they let you put in a half bid. So if the increment was like going up by $50, you'd be able to put in a bid for $25 more. But once you do that, then no one else can do that for the rest of the auction, including you. Why? I don't know, but that's the thing.
Like what? Never mind. They've really gamified auctions to make it worse.
I wish everything was a live auction. I think live auctions are so much more fun than eBay because like eBay, like everything's just a snipe, and it's like, you never get a deal with the snipe. I mean, you do get deals with the snipe, but I want to feel like I got a deal because the other guy was literally sleeping. Because that's what happens when I get a deal on Heritage Auctions. Because I'm usually winning stuff that like basically everybody just forgot to bid on.
I mean. And we're gonna do that, and you can follow Tyler and I when we start selling on Whatnot. Look for us. We got live giveaways coming up. We got buyer giveaways. Okay, I'm not gonna do the bit, but
don't say giveays. Ugh.
I know.
Giveays just sounds like something like the furry community would say.
I bring it up because I find the word also repulsive. I'm like, ugh. I hate it when someone says that. Like a grown man's like, I've got giveays. I'm just like, ugh. I dislike that a lot. I don't know why, but I find it repellent. But I think it's a fun part to put in the bit. So,
Johnny.
Yeah.
Let's move on. This episode has to go somewhere. Nintendo World Championship, second highest sale of the auction so far. No, it's not. That's not even close. $62,500. That feels right in line with what they've been selling for a while.
A deal.
I think it was a 6.5. Except there was one that sold for $78,000 on Golden Auctions. However, this was heavily featured in their Netflix show, so it might have got a bump from that. I think the one that sold for $78,000 was actually like a 6.0 maybe. So it was even a better deal this time. I don't have many strong feelings about this because that seems like just what NWC sell for now. It's a little bit interesting that an NWC Gold just sold, and for a third the price, you're getting a gray. And so I just talked about how I think that like basically the labelless one, maybe not the best deal in the world, but then like if you have an NWC Gold or 3 grays, like the Gold just seems like you would take the Gold every time, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely more than 3 times rarer. And it's like the thing. I don't know. I mean, I would take the gray and like, $100,000, but if I only had those options, I don't know.
I am long on record being the Gold only. Like you guys used to fight me and talk about the gray being the thing, but I've always been like, no, the Gold, it's the Gold. Always the Gold.
It's a magazine contest prize, dude. Who cares?
I understand that, but like it has greater appeal to me.
If you got the NWC Gold for winning some division of Nintendo World Championships, it still wouldn't be that cool. It's just a contest.
Okay.
All right, Johnny.
Well, I mean, if you want an NWC Gold, you know where you can go get it right now, right? For $60
Oh, on eBay?
on the Switch. Just go.
Oh, that's interesting. So all of these sales happened right after Nintendo basically said out loud, hey, we remember Nintendo World Championships. This is part of our history. And NWC prices are basically like, yeah, it's the same as other. Like, we don't care. We don't care that you're acknowledging that this was a thing.
Yep. Weird, right? You would
I
think
would have
that
thought
would
it
have
got
got
a
a bump.
Like, I could understand if it gets like a temporary bump because like we're right in the middle of Nintendo just releasing their Nintendo World Championships game and then it dips off. Like, this should be like right now, the middle of the hype. This is when there's the new Marvel movie with that character that no one cared about for 20 years. Like, this is the time to sell the comic book appearance. And it's still like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. This is prime. This is the prime moment in which to sell this. And it still only went, okay.
Johnny, the sale of the auction. What was I want to talk about the Nintendo Museum too.
Yeah, we can fit it in at the end.
9.2A first print TM The Legend of Zelda for NES. This game, if you don't know, it was ported from the Famicom Disk System version onto the cartridge version. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
$375,000. How do you feel about that?
Are you telling me that that's better than a gold?
That's way better than a gold. This is the first Zelda, dude. Let's look up that Wada Pop report. I don't even know if this was Wada or CGC, but I don't care. I'm looking up the Wada Pop report. Also, I think the Wada Pop report hasn't been updated in a long time now. But how many people are grading first print Zeldas? Yeah, it got updated in March. Great. Zelda TM. There are 3. There is a 9.2, a 9.4, and an 8.0. And their 9.2 is a B+, so just throw that one out. And their 9.4 is an A+. Oh, that's nice. 9.4 A+ first print Zelda. Whoever has that, probably feeling pretty good.
Are you telling me you would rather have this than an NWC Gold?
Out of everything that's sold in this entire auction, if you told me I was forced to buy like a fractional share of ownership in something, it would be this. I think if anything has a chance of being like this multi-million-dollar, whoever that Vegas DJ guy is, or like Logan Paul buys one of these to like put around his neck to enter a wrestling ring. Like, I don't think that will ever happen with video games, but the first print Legend of Zelda in one of the highest grades, that's like one of the all-time things I would say to invest in. Yeah. Okay. Because that is gettable seal. So it's not the end all be all because I hate to constantly bring this up, Johnny. It's not technically the first version, but of the first versions that people care about, it is the first version. It is rare. It's in good condition. It's not like an amazing grade in a vacuum, but for what it is, it's an amazing grade.
If I'm going to get a gold copy of a game that's not the first edition, and I'm going to pay over $300,000 for it, yeah, I'm taking the NWC.
So, but this is, we're talking strictly an investment. If we're talking about cashing this out in 30 years, I think there's a huge question mark on what the fucking NWC is in 30 years. Like, NWC, has that been a thing for 30 years? No, it's almost like it's barely older than 30 years old. I think Zelda will definitely be a thing in 30 years, though. Video games could crash. What am I talking about? The video games could all go to nothing because, like the whole next generation might just not collect video games. They just might interact with media in a different way. But if you're forcing my hand, if you're saying video games are an investment, NES, Mario, TM Zelda, Super Mario 64, that's kind of... whatever. I know it's common, but whatever. Super Mario 64, like, these are the games that will stand out, like, kind of the 50-year test, the 100-year test, when we boil everything down to 1 or 2 games per platform per decade. Like, this is one of the games that makes it. And yes, it's kind of you're paying the future value now, like you're kind of overpaying right now, I think, for the investment value. But I don't know. I don't hate it compared to most things I hate in video game things.
Yeah. Okay. It's not how I would pick.
But to give some comps, recently, I think a couple months ago, an 8.0A, much lower grade, sold for $288,000. So Logan Paul is never buying an 8.0A. Logan Paul, I'm saying like a theoretical douchebag who is going to wear this around his neck. He might buy a 9.2A if that's like the second or third best copy in the world. And like the first one just is straight up not available. I don't know. I see it being a more likely thing. Also, the 2021 comps, if you want like the crazy town time in the market, 870,000 and 705,000. I believe there was another sale of one for 600,000. All of those were in worse condition. That's making that sale look pretty good. Like that's a deal. That's a deal right there. I bet people were calling the sale disappointing. I'm calling it a deal, Johnny. $375,000 for a first print Zelda that someone probably bought 6 years ago for, $7,000.
Can you imagine paying twice the amount of an NWC Gold for a sealed Zelda? Just what?
If you were comparing like a labeled Zelda, because this is basically right in line with the private sale of the NWC that had a label.
Yes, yeah.
So let's compare it to that. So because those are basically the same price. What's $25,000 between friends? I'm taking the Zelda. I would feel a lot better if it was the highest graded 9.4 A+ Zelda, but then I think we'd be obviously talking a much higher price.
I'm still in the
If you're forcing
NWC.
me to invest in anything, I'll just take the 9.4 A Zelda, A+ Zelda. So if that's the highest graded one, I'll just take that at any price. Just if you're going to force me to put my fractional share money in that, I'll just put $10,000 in that. Whatever it won't be like a significant chunk of my 401k or something. We'll just see what happens, in 30 years. We'll see what happens.
It just feels like more Zeldas will show up, or Zeldas will show up at a higher rate than NWC Golds.
Let me do the trick on you, though. The trick is, Johnny, but there are 10,000 Charizards, and there's only, 5 Zeldas.
Oh shit, we better buy Zelda. But there's only one NWC Gold with a label that's sold.
We'll see. I'm super curious on NWC Gold. Now there have been a couple sales. I want one to come up for open auction with the label. Because you know what? The guy who bought one for $350,000, he's got to protect his purchase, so he's going to be bidding on that one. Oh, he's going to pump it to the moon. We're going to the moon the next time one comes up with the label, Johnny.
All right.
I'm
to the
ready.
moon we go. Let's go to the moon.
Everything. We got a couple more interesting stuff. Johnny, Mario 2 first print. We don't really know it's a first print because the date code is in the flap of the box. 9.8 A++. Johnny, that's a perfect grade almost. For $137,500.
Why aren't you just buying the NWC Gold?
Okay, you could have had 2 Nintendo World Championships for a Mario 2. I don't care. This is the best Mario 2 on. So here's the thing. So
no. You could have a gray and a gold and slap them together and put that on your mantle, or you could have Mario 2, and this is from a guy who loves Mario 2.
So this was purchased almost certainly because it's someone who has like a 9.8 A++, like Mario 3 and like a really nice 1, and he wants the trilogy of the set, and like price is no object. Or they're speculating that someone will buy it to complete the set, even though it is the Black Sheep Mario game.
No.
Interesting comps. 9.4 A+ recently sold for $13,750. That is 1/10 the price for. It's a pretty significant decrease, but it's a nice copy.
I thought you just missed the 0 in that one.
No, it's just a 10th of the price. It's
literally just 10%.
But 2021. So I completely realized comparing any price to 2021 is ridiculous because everyone was like high off their ass in 2021. Interest rates were nothing. You could borrow money, all that stuff. Inflation has gone up. 2021 price 9.8 A+, not even the A++, $324,000.
You could have
So the guy bidding on this, the best one on planet Earth, was probably like, hot damn, I got a hell of a deal. Because I got a better condition one than one someone paid more than twice as much for.
Oh my God, what is this world we live in?
Is a weird world. Don't you like looking at this? Isn't this fun?
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll get into it, but just my takeaway from all the investment research we did today is that like video game prices, it's not that they're wild and high, it's just that they're all over the place and incomprehensible.
I think that things are more comprehensible than in 2021, 2022. Man, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Hyperstone Heist is not a game that really matters. And that game sold for like $60,000.
Yeah.
Like you could have an NWC Gold, or you could have the shittiest shrink wrap in the world around Hyperstone Heist, and someone chose Hyperstone Heist.
No, but see, I could comprehend that market because I was like, oh, this is insane, people. But this market now, currently, 2021, 2022 summer, like that like weird jump period in 2022, like that was people being insane. And it's like, okay, I understand that's people being insane. But looking at prices right now in 2024, moving towards 2025, it's not that they're just up, they're down, they're left, they're right. Like they're just, and I'm talking on the same game. There's just like with near comps, the price is all over the place. There's so much fluctuation. I'm like this, there's no like good trend lines. You're just like, this doesn't, how did we arrive at this when every trend line is a squiggly line? It's weird.
I think broadly there has been a bunch of like ups and downs, but I think as things have filtered over, say, the past 2 or 3 years since like absolute crazy times, I'm not going over every sale here at the top, but the stuff at the top, what are we talking about? We're talking about Zelda, Mario, Metroid, Pokemon. We're getting down to Kirby. We're not seeing this thing where like, why is Tecmo Bowl here in the $100,000 range? Why is Tomb Raider here in the $100,000 range? Why is Twisted Metal here in the $100,000 range? Like the games that are these crazy town prices at least are the correct franchises and kind of the correct games. I mean, debatably Mario 2.
The cream is rising.
The cream is rising. I think that say what you want about the prices, say what you want about the variants. I think some of the variants might not be the best thing to be buying. Yeah, I do think people are parking tons of money into better stuff.
True. I can get behind that statement.
Metroid Hang Tab, Johnny. The nicest Metroid Hang Tab? Let's go to that Hot Pop report. I realize I should be checking CGC, but you know what? I don't care that much. There are 6 Metroid Hang Tabs. This is the nicest one, if this is WATA. I didn't write down if it's WATA. 9.6 A+. If you were looking at a game, let's give the viewers at home, if you don't collect sealed games, 9.6 A+, you would look at it and be like, wow, that is a mint video game. That's a really nice video game. And to have any sealed hang tab, let alone freaking Metroid, that's obviously incredible. $125,000. The only caveat is there's a big, ugly KB toy sticker right over Samus's head. It is just like a tragedy. I know some people like the stickers. Oh, why would you do that? But
yuck.
Let me give you the comps from 2 years ago. There was a 9.4 A+, so 0.2 less, that sold for $168,000. So you got a nicer copy here for cheaper 2 years later. And then there was an 8.5 A+ for $132,000. So again, you got a much nicer copy cheaper. So if you live in a world where these prices actually mean something and it's not just numbers we're throwing at you and you're just like, oh, $130,000 for a video game, I'm calling it a deal. I would still rather have the Zelda than a third the price on Metroid, because I think Zelda matters more than 3 times as much as Metroid. But it's apparently the nicest hang tab. I'm sure there's like some VGA copy that's better, but whatever. How do you feel about it? You love Metroid?
I mean, I do love Metroid, but do you want to know what I'd rather have?
What? $125,000.
I mean, yes, but I would also rather have an NWC Gold and an NWC Gray.
You're such an old man collector. You were always saying, like, I can't wait for the day for Mario to be worth more than stadium events. And now here you are, like Metroid. I'd rather have Nintendo World Championships. I'm a collector.
I always said NWC Gold is cool, the coolest item. I'd said that. I'm long on record. And if I'm spending that kind of money, like that's the thing I would get. Like I own a Metroid. A nice one.
But you could own for just 100 times the price, 200 times the price, you could have like a much nicer one.
Oh, okay.
Think of how nice those internals are. Man, I think like sealed games are like for the most part I think kind of bullshit. I think they're largely plastic wrapped. But man, the sealed NES games like NES and N64 when you know everything inside there is nice and mint in the baggie. Oh, it feels so much better than
I mean,
like a sealed DVD.
Since we're talking about that, did I bring up how they're doing like CAT scans on games now?
Oh, they're doing it for games too?
Yeah, MRIs. Like they did it on cards. They did it for a game, I think. Like just to prove what's in there.
I think it's great.
I love it. Some people say it's like, I mean, the bad thing they're doing is like sealed boxes of cards or sealed packs of cards, and they can identify what cards in the pack.
No, that's great. Screw sealed product, whatever. I love it.
No, I like for those people it sucks because it's going to be like, I mean, can you just imagine like being a grading company and going and buying like a bunch of like MRI machines and CAT scan machines so you could scan stuff and get like that be a service? You're an MRI tech? Yeah. Which hospital do you work at? CGC? What?
Yeah, for those who don't know, so they have actual medical equipment, and for like $75, you could send them like a Pokemon trading card pack, and they can scan it, and they can see like the holographic pattern of the rare, and they could tell you what the rare in that pack is. And so you can weigh like vintage Pokemon card packs, and the ones with the holographic cards weigh more. So you know which cards to send in to get CAT scanned. So you could see whether you have a Charizard and it's worth opening this pack, or whether, you have some garbage, you have a Hypno and it's just throw it out.
Well, it's crazy. Keep it sealed and sell the sealed one and let someone else gamble on it.
Yeah, and so now basically every like good pack, like if you have a base set Pokemon card pack, it's worthless because like it's worth the $75 to have that scanned. So if you're getting it loose, it doesn't have a Charizard. It doesn't have a Charizard.
Yeah, we're never going back from this. It's funny because we've reached a point you can't walk back from this point.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. I'm sure. Rudy was making some cope videos about how. Don't worry about it. Sealed product's fine. And maybe he's.
Yeah, I didn't see those videos from Rudy, but yeah,
I didn't actually watch them. But whenever something bad happens, Rudy's out there making some cope videos.
Yeah.
This, for me, changes the grail. We're getting so off topic, but whatever. You guys just like hearing us talk, right? For me,
I don't think that's true.
If I'm in the Pokemon market, the grail has now changed. I want a Charizard booster pack, a Charizard first edition booster pack that's still sealed. Fuck your card. Nice. Your card's a PSA 10. Oh, it's opened? Mine's complete. Mine's sealed. Like, you have the best card then. And this really like flips on his head. Like, what is trading card collecting even about if we're collecting sealed packs that have the cards we know are in them?
Well, now you can get a sealed Charizard, and you could never get a sealed Charizard before.
Oh my God. There are people who's like, the gears are spinning in their head. Like, how do I start a whole new market with this? They're trying to scan as many cards as possible and get them graded saying what the scan card is because they want to start. Yeah, I'm not selling Pokemon cards. I'm selling sealed Pokemon cards now. You can get a sealed Blastoise, baby.
Oh man, I'm glad video games can finally give something to other hobbies.
This is man. Someone tell me, is this a market now? Is everyone like kind of laughing at this, and this is for like a few niche people who own like some really high end packs, or are people trying to start a new market of sealed packs with known contents? Because I love if people are doing the latter. That's so good.
Man, I hope so.
Because man, can you do this with Magic cards, or is it only the holo patterns they can detect?
I don't know. I need to read up more on this. I just love the idea of this. Because remember, we joked about the dentist using his dental equipment to like scan boxes before. We made this joke like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and here we are.
So there's this guy on YouTube. I'm sure you know him. Open Boosters. He has a booster box of beta Magic the Gathering. I have no idea what it's worth. Probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he opens the boosters. That's his thing. Which is it's crazy to open these because like you could get like a Black Lotus worth literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in perfect condition, fresh from the pack. And he did pull that. And the entire joy of this channel, like this channel was largely because like, fuck, I want to open these fucking crazy old booster packs and pull the greatest cards that have ever been printed. And like to think that all of that joy could have been destroyed. Like I watched every single one of those videos. And it was always crazy every time you got to the rare. Because I'm invested in Magic the Gathering emotionally, not monetarily. And dude, if he pulls a Time Walk, if he pulls a Mox Sapphire, like I get hyped along with him because that's fucking crazy. And if he could have just scanned all these and been like, that one's the Black Lotus. Like, oh my God. All the joy sucked out of the entire collecting hobby right there. Absolutely insane.
It's crazy.
Even just knowing that you have the ability to do that ruins it. Like, it's not just that, like, oh, I'm just not going to get them scanned, but, like, you could, and then you wouldn't have to open them. So you're just, like, wasting your money, basically, you're telling me, by opening the shitty packs, too?
I mean, especially gambling with such a high-value item, like, now it's crazier than it's ever been.
Or if you're saying that you never scanned it, I'm just like, I don't believe you. I think you scanned it off camera.
Oh, absolutely.
But going back to video games, I think this is interesting because it might identify some weird niche cases of like 3-3 versus 5 screw. Maybe there's certain rare inserts. I don't think there's a ton of actual use cases for it though, unless maybe you know.
No, I don't. I'm curious what it will do. But if you can confirm how many documents are just in a game, you're like, okay, there's like 5, so we think we know which 5 these are. Like it adds a new wrinkle into like. Because you're like, the 5 screws, like you pointed out, only came in this. Now people can go ahead and scan that, and you're like, oh, okay. Also, you can probably get down to chip arrangements, which might be interesting.
No, I guess that might be like so. Maybe if you're selling a game, like say you're selling this $375,000 Zelda, I think it would be interesting just to have a CAT scan of the documents, like what's in that box, just because it's like, oh, for $75, here's like a fun add-on for your huge investment. Here's what's in the box. And then you can look at it and be like, oh, look at this Zelda. I could open this right now, but I won't. But here's the stuff that's inside of it.
Yeah, if we're talking about things that are selling for $50,000 and $100,000 or $20,000, $75 extra, who gives a shit? Do it.
Do it. Get your NWC CAT scan. I mean, you could just open it. It's got screws on the back, but just do it. It'll be fun. I'm sure that there's like some insurance thing where it'll cost you more than $75 when you send them that. But yeah, CAT scans. What a weird thing for collectibles.
Love it.
Johnny, oh no, we're still in the big stuff. Okay. Pokemon Red 9.8 A++ Rattata print sold for $118,750. So that would be a middle print Pokemon Red. And man, there's a lot of Pokemon Reds. When we were going through eBay, man, you want like sealed Pokemon games? You just sort eBay by highest price and solds. There's a lot of Pokemon games out there. I don't like this. I'm giving this a thumbs down as someone who thinks Pokemon Red and Blue are all-timers, like top 10 games I would invest in. Because why are you putting the enormous premium on the condition when you're buying the wrong variant? It is not hard to find a Pokemon Red Sandshrew print, which is the quote-unquote first print, even though I'm sure it was longer than that. I disagree.
Finally, you want to take the NWC Gray over this.
I will take an NWC Gray over this. I don't know if monetarily. I think monetarily I might still invest in the Pokemon Red. But, I mean, if you're giving me 2 NWC Grays or a Pokemon Red 9.8.
I mean, you can just take
I would take the
gold, no label, and a gray.
Wait, what?
Just get them both.
I can't afford both. That's $200,000. Then I start getting into Zelda territory, and I'm going to take the Zelda, Johnny.
Okay.
Comps for this. So $118,000 for the perfect condition mid-print. The same exact thing in 2022 sold for $45,000. The same exact thing in 2022 again sold for $75,000. This is on the upswing in 2 years. So, like, if you guys think, like, the world is crashing and burning, like I just said, like, that Zelda, there was, like, an $870,000 Zelda in worse condition, and now a really nice one sells for half that. Pokemon Red, this Pokemon Red print is up. Like, it's going way up.
All this tells me is that we should have been buying Pokemon all along.
That's always the answer, dude. If you're not buying Pokemon, what are you doing? Let me tell you, there's 10,000 Charizards, Johnny, and that's a hot market. And we're here talking about, like, oh, video games are ho-hum. You know, I have no idea.
Be the very best. Then collect Pokemon.
In 2020, the same thing sold for $84,000. So this thing, in 2 years, it went way down to almost half price, and now it is gone way up again, more than doubling. It's interesting.
What is that?
It's the crazy market, but I don't hate it. It is a perfect condition Pokemon game that's one of the best of all time. For me, man, if you're spending more than $2,000 on a video game, it has to be the best version. Unless it's like NWC, where you might call NWC Gold the best version. I'll let you get an NWC Gray if you want to. But man, if we're talking about prints and variants, you're spending thousands of dollars, get the best version. I don't care. These people come at me, they're like, oh, you don't understand. It's impossible to get a first print Zelda, so I settled for the second print Zelda. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. Save your $45,000 and save up for the next $300,000 Zelda if that's what you have to do. Johnny, a 9.4 A+ Circle Seal Zelda sold for $42,500. You know, Circle Seal Zeldas are pretty cool.
They're cool. Why are they cool, though?
I think that, what is this, an eighth the price of the first print? I'll get the first print. Instead of 8 of these, just get the first print. That's basically the same. So in May, a 9.6 A+ sold for $45,000. So basically the same price in worse condition, meaning this Zelda, so the mid-condition Zelda, that has technically, I would say, gone up. Because a $2,500 price difference between 9.4 and 9.6 is nothing. So the 9.6 was a way better deal there.
Okay.
All right. Whatever. It's a mid-print Zelda. I won't go over everything here. Johnny, there's a Nintendo PlayStation controller sold for $35,000. That's interesting. I think that's a very hard thing to comment on. Obviously, there was the Nintendo PlayStation itself sold for something around like $350,000 for the console and 2 controllers. So if you're buying one controller for $35,000, I think that makes the console seem like a better deal, I think. Because you're telling me that $70,000 just for the 2 controllers, and that's like a third the price of the whole console?
No thanks. Yeah,
this is it's an interesting sale. I feel like that's not an investment that's going to someone with a lot of money who wants that little piece of history. This one's crazy, Johnny. Kirby's Dream Land 3, 90+. If you don't know, that's like super mint. $35,000 for Kirby's Dream Land 3. We were just talking about, well, everything at the top is basically, Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Pokemon. It all makes sense. Where did Kirby's Dream Land 3 get in here?
Just snuck in the back door. How'd he get here? Who let Kirby in?
This game is like $1,000 complete in box. It's always been like uncommon and like desirable because it's like an uncommon Nintendo game. It's like, oh, well, this is a cool game on the Super Nintendo. It's like $1,000 complete in box is no joke on Super Nintendo. But $35,000, I don't care if it's probably the nicest copy on Earth. This feels like not an investment. Like the world's biggest rich guy Kirby fan bought this.
It does seem crazy to me.
I wish we knew, man. I wish there was a way to know. Like, is this just some guy just like YOLO clicking buy it now and just like does not care and all this is like cheap compared to vintage sports cards? Or is someone buying this as an investment? Because, man, tell me what your exit strategy is for Kirby's Dream Land 3 at $35,000. Josh Byerly is going to come in here and tell you, like, you got to stop buying stupid shit, man. You look at, like, right above you is a mint condition Legend of Zelda, and you're telling me you went for the Kirby's Dream Land 3? What are you doing?
Yeah, this seems... This is a lot. This is a lot, and that it seems crazy to me.
Matt Super Mario Brothers. Johnny, I say it, and I'm going to be that biased guy because I literally own one, even if it is the worst condition copy on Earth. If there's one game I think has the longest legs, it's Matt Super Mario Brothers. Even if it's not the real first Super Mario Brothers, everything else it has going for it. Genuinely rare, complete in box. There are 0 sealed copies. I think even more interesting, maybe half the copies are missing the sticker or part of the sticker. So if you find a copy that has the entire sticker, it's like twice as rare as an already pretty uncommon and rare complete in box game. And it doesn't get enough of a price premium for that a lot of the time. This one had the sticker missing entirely and still sold for $32,000. So what this did have, I forgot the condition. I don't have it written down, but I think this was like, it was like a 9.0. And that was like it was like an 8.0 box maybe, that's pretty nice for complete in box. So kind of paradoxically, if you have complete in box for like a rare game, like 8.0 is really nice. And then when you get to like more common sealed games, like 8.0 is kind of trash. It's what a weird world we live in. The interesting thing about this is I think the manual was a 9.4 and it was actually the misprint manual. So if you look at a Super Mario Brothers manual, it's not the zip code. What is it's the PO box address. So it'll have 4 digits or 3 digits. And if it has 4 digits, it's the misprint. This is one of those things where like you start looking at all these graded complete in box copies and you're like, oh, these all have the wrong manual. And they're not the wrong manual, they're just not the earliest manual. And this one not only had the earliest manual, but had it in a 9.4. So it is very possible that someone bought this $32,000 game just to grab that manual out of it, which is kind of crazy. And the cart grade doesn't matter because the carts are basically bullshit. The cart variant, they're only checking the outer shell of the cartridge, and that variant of cart was produced for over a year, so it's not super hard to find them nice if you don't care about like the PCB date codes and things like that. Okay. I don't know. I don't hate it. I would I'll invest in this one too.
Okay, thumbs up. Got
it. Mike Tyson Oval Seal 9.8 A plus, basically perfect condition. I didn't even go far. I didn't go far enough back. I know that these have sold for like hundreds of thousands of dollars in the past. Tyson has come down to earth. Maybe a more relatable example: 9.4 A plus for $87.50. 9.4 A plus, nice grade, wrong variant. That is down from $13,000 in just May. It's down like $5,000 in a few months. There's also a 9.4 A. That sold for $12,000 in February and $14,400 in November. Mike Tyson is just down on all fronts.
That's crazy to me. It's gone down this much.
But also, last year, you could have got Punch-Out without Mike Tyson. 9.6 A plus. So like basically mint condition for $1,000.
Oh, very
so
reasonable.
Mike Tyson is the only selling point of this game. And you know what? I kind of agree with that because, man, you can rationalize with yourself that you're getting an oval seal and be like, it's new, stupid collector bullshit. But no one's going to rationalize with themselves that they have to fight Mr. Dream.
No. Yeah. $1,000. That seems fine. But yeah, man, that's hard. Tyson, though, giving it that much of a bump, just a 10x bump.
Yeah. I mean, man, you don't want the Punch-Out. I mean, I think if you're just collecting like kind of Nintendo history, I think there's something to Punch-Out because Punch-Out is the game going forward. Because the series is Punch-Out. The series is not Mike Tyson. There are games before Punch-Out and there are games after Punch-Out. They're all called Punch-Out, by the way. But like the Wii game is called Punch-Out. It is the sequel to Super Punch-Out, which is the sequel to Punch-Out, which is the other version of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. You know, it's Mike Tyson's is the thing that's not a big part of the series. Punch-Out is the big part of the series.
Yeah.
But
Tyson's
I'm rationalizing for a thing I would never buy.
Yeah. Tyson is definitely the anomaly in the Punch-Out series, but people don't think of it like that.
Oh, 9.8 A plus, Mega Man 2s and Zelda 2 sold for $28,000. That just, I didn't even look up comps. It's just like, all right. Those are like A minus tier games on NES that sold for an A minus price. Sure. Johnny, late print, and I don't know the prints of Sega Master System games. I'm just going based on the description here. Late print Phantasy Star on Sega Master System, 9.8 A plus plus. This is it. This is the best Phantasy Star late print on Sega Master System that's out there. $20,000. Okay. Who bought this?
Who did this? Who did
Daddy
this?
Mulk, are you out there? Was this you? No, Daddy Mulk is a little nitpicky collector. He would want the early print. Or he'd probably want the Japanese version. But holy guacamole, Johnny, who cares about Phantasy Star? Like, yeah, the Sega guys. Yeah, like the PSO people, maybe. I mean, this is one of those things like, is this an investment or is this a collector piece? Because this feels like the prime collector piece for that guy who's way into Phantasy Star. But man, $20,000 for a really personal collector piece?
Yeah.
So to give you a comparison to a game that matters so much more than Phantasy Star, Final Fantasy 1 on NES, you can get a 9.6 A+, which I realize not the same as 9.8 A++, for like $6,000 to $8,000. And yes, that is also a much more common game, but like, fuck you, it's Final Fantasy. This is down to like Charizard versus like if there was a rare Vaporeon card. Phantasy Star is the rare Vaporeon card in this case compared to Charizard, that is Final Fantasy. So, Johnny, are you taking 3 sealed Phantasy Stars or are you taking an NWC?
I'm going to take an NWC, Tower.
This is an interesting sale because the last sealed one that I found, I'm sure there's been others, was a 9.4 B+, which is basically garbage. I would never buy any B+ game for $6,400. And when put in like on the spectrum of 9.8 A++ to 9.4 B+, the $20,000 makes sense. That feels like the right price if that's genuinely what the 9.4 B+ is worth. I just don't understand how any copy of Phantasy Star is worth this much at all.
It does seem crazy, doesn't it?
For $1,000 less, you know what you could get? A fucking sealed Super Mario World.
Feels like a better choice.
It kind of feels like a better choice, even though, I'm sorry, Super Mario World will be forgotten to history as just the better version of Super Mario Brothers. On a long enough time scale, I'm saying. Anyway, it was an 8.0 A+ for $19,000. I don't really have a lot to say about that. That's just, sure. Honestly, compared to its complete in box price, it almost even seems low if we're going to really, because that's like an A tier game. It's an already kind of rare game, but I don't know, whatever. It's not a big enough grade to make sealed people excited. Here's an interesting one. Chrono Trigger 9.2A. I realize 9.2A is not a very exciting grade for a game as prestigious as Chrono Trigger. $12,500. That's the same price as a 9.0A sold for in 2022. Also in 2022, a 9.2A sold for $17,000. And then in 2021, one sold for $19,000. And then an 8.5A, that's kind of like give or take whether it's better or worse, maybe about the same, sold for $28,000 in 2021. So Chrono Trigger is on the way down? How do we feel about that?
I don't feel good about that. Is Chrono Trigger hype just dying right now? Do we need a Switch remake to pump it back up?
It could be I didn't find enough comparable sales because obviously the market has gone way down since 2022, and it could just be that, the market went down, so it's worth, 2/3 as much as it used to be. It was interesting because I was doing my thing where I'm like, all right, what games will matter in 100 years? I'm Tyler. And like, I said nothing on SNES matters. And like Chrono Trigger is one of the games that has legs because of like the team that created it and how beloved it is in JRPG history. Like it is kind of one of those games that I don't know how much of an impact it had in terms of mechanics or anything, but it kind of lives there because it is so beloved in the genre. It's almost like a Super Mario Brothers 3. Like, yes, it did push the genre forward in numerous ways, but it is mostly beloved for just how fucking good it is.
Okay. All right.
Johnny, Bart and the Beanstalk for Game Boy.
Oh, you just want to move right to Bart. Okay, fine.
What do you got on Chrono Trigger? I don't know.
No, I'm trying to think it through. Like, how does this happen to Chrono Trigger?
It's because don't invest in A's. So, I mean, look at all these things. So 9.0 A+, that feels like I feel okay buying that. 9.2A, 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 three sales of 9.2A. People don't like 9.2. People don't like A. 8.5A+, people really don't like when the score dips down into the 8s. I just think that, you get like that 9.4A+ on there. I think like it's more than double what these are selling for. Like that's when you get like the $30,000 plus sale. And when I say these things, I have to pretend that any of these prices make sense.
Yeah. A large grain of salt. Yeah, this makes sense. This is normal. This is normal.
Johnny, The Simpsons Bart and the Beanstalk. This one's a personal one for me because A couple years ago, I think it was actually in the big, so July 2021 was like the craziest auction of all time, just like everything out of control. One of the games they had for sale was a 9.4 A plus Barton the Beanstalk on Game Boy. And in the description for that game, they called it a once in a generation buying opportunity because that's how rare this game was. And you're telling me here, 3 years later, just 3 years, that's not a generation. Not only is this game up for sale again, a 9.8 A plus, a mint condition copy of it is? It sold for $12,000. So the perfect condition copy sold for $4,000 less than the once in a generation, pretty good condition copy. Fuck
So
up.
I guess it wasn't once in a generation then.
Super Mario 64 9.4 A plus sold for $12,500. It's a good bit lower than $1.5 million.
Oh, by how much?
How many Super Mario 64s are there? So I think Super Mario 64 matters a whole lot. And I think it has legs in multiple ways because it's also one of the most popular speedrun games. There are 166 copies of it, but man, do they start ramping up when you get down into the 8 and below. There's like 24 copies on WATA that are 9.4 and above. And that sure seems like a lot less than when you count them all as under 66, doesn't it? You got to start partitioning things when you're trying to make your thing seem good. Because when you partition things, you can make it seem like really rare. Because then you start saying like there are only 14 other copies in this grade, or if you include the seal grade, there are only 8 other copies in this exact grade. Then you can start making it seem like really rare.
It's true. That's how we do it.
This game is common as balls. I'm still gonna say I would invest in this over a lot of the stuff above it. Hate me all you want. It's Super Mario 64. We're investing. If I'm throwing my money, Johnny, it's at Zelda, it's at Super Mario 1 Matt, and it's at Super Mario 64. Let's do it. Let's get that green.
I don't disagree with you.
Johnny, the Millennium 2000 controller for N64 with the stand. It's got a little hand stand. It's very fancy and rare. $11,000.
Did you see that it was a little bit scuffed up too?
No, I didn't see that it was scuffed up because I did what every normal person would do. I saw a rare Nintendo 64 controller and I immediately scrolled past it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good choice. But yeah, there was a little bit of edge wear on like a little bit of it. And my favorite comment, I forget, it was just like, I wouldn't buy it with that kind of damage on it. I was like,
where are you going to get one? There's only 1,000. How many of them still have the stand?
Buddy, it's like, I was just like, okay, you're getting this with the stand and you're also in the position to be like, no, wait for another. Give me a break. Give me a break.
That guy was obviously not in the market for it.
No, I'm in the market for one, but only if it doesn't have this kind of... Also, it was like, you had to magnify it to like really see it. It was like, okay.
So, obviously this isn't an investment, right? This is like an N64 super fan who pulled his money together and he's like, man, I could swing $10,000 for this Millennium 2000 controller.
This seems like a bad deal.
If I'm calling investments here, this is going to be one of the biggest thumbs down.
This is no way. No way, no how, no sir. But I'm curious, do you think this is better than our next item, which is Nintendo Power number 1, a 9.4, that sold for $9,300?
That is a crazy price for a magazine that was like probably topped out at $200 like 2 years ago. I'm still buying Nintendo Power 1 over a freaking Millennium 2000 controller because you know what? At least there is a future in which I can imagine people knowing what Nintendo Power 1 is. You could probably ask like regular game collectors, like guys who are really in it every day, and like maybe they just don't collect N64. Maybe they collect, they're into like 3DS and PS2 and Switch and things like that. And there are people who just like won't know what the Millennium 2000 controller is. And you're telling me you take 5 of those over Nintendo World Championships? Maybe 6?
Nope.
You got to do the comparison game. So when Josh says don't invest in stupid shit, and I realize this wasn't an investment. No one's investing in Millennium 2000 controllers. So honestly, I'm obviously playing it up. Let me take it all back and say, congratulations. I know you're very happy that you finally own the Millennium 2000 controller metal stand. But when Josh says don't invest in stupid shit, the best thing to do is you take multiple of one item and compare it to the second thing, and you think, which one of these has longer legs in 20 years? And if it's Super Mario 64 or the Millennium 2000 controller for the same price, it might be self-evident.
Yep.
Yeah, Nintendo Power 1 9.4 for $9,300. That seems crazy. Like, if you're gonna sit here and tell me like I spent, not $1 million, but like some crazy price for the 9.8 sample edition Nintendo Power, and it's only one of two in the world, I'll roll my eyes and be like, okay, it at least it's the rarest one, but like 9.4 is. That grade does not impress me $10,000 worth.
Let me give you 4 things.
Yes.
Okay. Chrono Trigger, that 9.2 for 12. Simpsons, 9.8 A+ for 12. Super Mario 64 for 12. Or a Millennium controller. Or the Nintendo Power.
Yeah, I
Which
think
one?
when you put it like that, when you put those things next to each other, Johnny, I just feel like taking the Super Mario 64 for some reason.
What is your order here that you're taking them? Because I have my order.
Mine is Super Mario 64, Nintendo Power 1, even though it is a pretty mid-grade, and then desperately trying to not buy the other ones. I'll take the Chrono Trigger, but I don't want the A. So
yeah, see, I got Chrono Triggers 2, and then the Nintendo Power. Look, you said it's a mid-grade. For Nintendo Power, I think it's very hard to even get a 9. I think it's hard to get above a 6 or a 7 in Nintendo Power. So I think this is a very exceptional grade, but I don't think it's $9,300 exceptional.
it is. I realize that every Nintendo Power is red and trashed. It's just like, imagine you're in the 2019 market and you're looking at like pop reports, or you're like trying to gauge how many are out there, and you're the guy out there saying like, you don't understand, there's only 3 known copies of this sealed, and then over the next 5 years everyone has a chance to dig all them out and send them in. If I'm spending $10,000 on not like the top condition magazine, I'm worried how many of them are out there sitting in stacks that could get a 9.4, and I wouldn't be worried if I had the 9.8. But I don't know. I also just don't care about Nintendo Power. It's a bad magazine.
Yeah.
If you put Fun Club News one, I would still take obviously Mario 64.
I mean, and that's the other thing. This is just Nintendo Power, and it's not even the first of it. It's like after a whole series of magazines.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Nintendo Power 1 is basically the 8th issue, guys. Preach the controversy. Not only is Nintendo Power 1 the 8th issue, there's 7 Fun Club News, right?
Fun Club News 1 and 2. No, is there 8 of those? Is it the 9th issue, or is
All right,
it number
Nintendo
7?
Power 1 is the 9th issue, and it's the widest circulated of those 9 issues. So, you know what? Your Nintendo Power 1's kind of bullshit.
I know. Right.
Also, a Nintendo Power 1 9.2 sold for $3,700. So you can get it for less than half price for essentially a rounding error. I didn't look at them up close. There could be an actual difference, but
no, this is going to be negligibly different.
Yeah, I mean, like you could send in the same book and get a 0.2 difference in a grade.
This is not 3 times better, and that's how I look at it.
Yeah, but I mean, so this is a different market than video games entirely. So I don't really understand comics and magazines and books and stuff, because when I look at graded comic books, something I don't do that often, but I look at the lower grades, the mid grades, and I'm like, why is no one buying this for a 20th of the price? Look at how great this book looks. And when I look at the video games, I'm like, oh, look at this 6. Jesus Christ, who would ever want this?
Because the sheer quantity of comics that exist usually. So it's not that it's a 6, it's that there's 20 9.8s and you bought a 6.
Oh man, if you're buying modern books and you're getting 9.6s, like, why don't you just toss your money in the garbage? What are you doing?
Yeah. All right.
Okay, here we go. So we've just gone through like a bunch of like, I'm going to say bullshit. Like, I'm sorry, Bart and the Beanstalk and the Millennium 2000 controller and an issue of Nintendo Power. And here we get down to 9.4 A+. For those of us keeping track at home, near mint game. You would be very happy if you had a sealed 9.4 A+ that you found at a garage sale. You would be like, this is it. This is mint. This is perfect. Contra for $8,700. Below all this stuff.
And like, let's be clear. If we put that list back up and I said, what are you picking number 1 and 2? You're picking Super Mario Brothers 64 still 1, but then you're putting Contra at 2, right?
If the Chrono Trigger is still an A, I'm sorry, Chrono Trigger. Yeah, I'm taking the Contra because it has the A+, and it's just better. Right. And every top 10 NES game list in the world is going to have Contra on it. Because not only is it like the well-known, like if you're a super casual NES fan, that's still one of the top games you're going to put along with like your Super Mario Brothers 3 and whatever. But it also is genuinely one of the best games in NES. Contra is super good.
I mean, it might be ranked the highest like third-party game. Too, so
highest third-party game. Wow, that's crazy. I never even thought about that. I mean, it's always going to be up there. Hold on, let's go. Let's look at the GameFAQs highest rated NES games. I like going to GameFAQs because regular people have rated those. Oh man, how do you find this? Tyler, remember to cut this. You're probably not paying very much attention because, you know, it's one of those episodes. Here we go. Nope, you are 100% wrong. The highest rated third-party game, Johnny, it's the second game on GameFAQs. It's Mega Man 2. I should have had you guess it. Why don't you guess the second highest rated third-party game? This one is super wrong, by the way. And then Contra is the fifth highest rated NES game. Fifth highest rated NES game. Dude, it's above Super Mario Brothers, and it's like we're talking way down in the NES rankings in terms of price. It's crazy.
What would it even be? Castlevania.
That is an excellent guess. That is not even close to correct. It's Mega Man 3. Mega Man 3 is the fourth highest rated game on NES and GameFAQs. I'm sorry that I went to GameFAQs. I was wrong. This website is bullshit. Hey, Mr. Gimmick is actually in the top 20. That's a good choice. But yeah, this website is bullshit. Mega Man 3 being the fourth best NES game of all time is an insane thing to say.
Yeah. No, I meant more in terms of like price and stuff. Like it's going to be like Castlevania and Contra fighting it out for the third party top slot there, right?
No, I would assume. Like Castlevania is going to be huge. Castlevania is like multiple hundreds of thousands. Oh, well, I think it's over $100,000 for like Hang Tag. Those have recently sold.
Okay.
I mean, Contra.
Yeah, I guess Castlevania has a lot more like the ability to suss out first prints and nuance and things that Contra doesn't really have.
I mean, yeah, it's got the hang tab, so you kind of But
anyways.
So like this is kind of the perfect grade for someone who wants just like a near mint Contra, because there's nothing like that 9.2A Chrono Trigger. You're always going to look at that and be like, oh my god, I would pay anything for that to just be a little bit nicer. But this is a perfectly nice Contra. It's one of the lowest priced games we're going to talk about. And you look at 2021, I realize an incomparable year of absolute madness. 9.2 to 9.8 copies were selling for like $29,000 to $150,000. Yes. And then many worse copies than this have sold from 2021 to 2023 for over $10,000. So yes, the market has come down for Contra. This is kind of in line with what it has sold for maybe this year. But I mean, it's flat over the past year, but it seems like a better deal than some of the more expensive stuff.
Yeah. So what I'm learning is that the market is no longer euphoric.
I mean, I don't know. It's not super euphoric. It's not like going crazy. Yes. I feel like this would have maybe gone higher if the market was euphoric.
Okay.
All right, Johnny, you've got a Tecmo Bowl 9.2 A+ Circle Seal first print, $5,900. I'm just bringing that up because that game has sold for over $100,000, and that's funny. So every time we have to bring up Tecmo Bowl. Ocarina of Time Collector's Edition 9.6 A+, $5,000, and the regular one 9.2 A+ for $3,500. I don't know; those are common games. It kind of goes in line with the Mega Man 2 and Zelda 2. Those feel like A-
Well,
games for an A- price. Oh, those are
This
kind of
is
like
five.
A games.
This is $5,000. Okay, would you rather have this or the Chrono Trigger?
I mean, I would rather have the collector's edition. I've got a shitty Ocarina of Time collector's edition sealed. I'll take the nice one, please. Thank you. I don't care.
So-
like, one of the most common graded games is Ocarina of Time collector's edition.
I know. It's just like, okay, you could like over the Millennium controller, you could just have Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. And I know, like, people, they hear Ocarina of Time and they're like, wow, that game's bullshit. All right, let's go to the Wada Pop report. Like, in 9.6, there's 17 and then 110. And then of those 17, there's 1A and 1B, so just scratch those out. So there's basically 15. I don't know. $5,000 is a lot. It's kind of universally, the millennials are like, oh yeah, it's the best game ever.
It's Zelda.
Yeah. Invest in that. That'll go to 10,000. Let's go. Let's I don't know. Will the S&P 500 get there first though? I don't know.
Are these thumbs up?
I think are people I think Ocarina of Time is too common to invest in regardless of its reputation. So I feel like even like yes, $5,000 is a lot to pay as a collector. I feel like these probably went to collectors.
Okay.
I think there's just a market for this level of game now. Johnny, and the last one I want to go over, Madden Cardboard 9.0A. Notable for being the first Madden on Genesis, and Genesis is the Madden that matters. Obviously, I'm going to go off on my Apple II garbage that no one played or cared about. People played it, but this is the version that changed the sports games forever. It's the first Madden that matters. $5,000. That feels so dumb when the PC, not even the Apple version, the PC version sold for multiple times this.
No.
What? The budget PC version. Ah. All right.
What is Okay. Okay, world.
All right.
Stop it.
How do we feel about this Heritage Auction stuff? I feel it feels like the good stuff is selling for high-ish prices. And I don't think there's anything that strikes me as super, super outlandish. Like, I could, like, easily make fun of so many things in 2021, 2022. I mean, if you're going to make fun of this, you're making fun of the fact that this market exists at all, right?
Yeah. I think that's...
And maybe Kirby's Dream Land 3 for $35,000. What the fuck?
I mean, most of these, like, aside from your Phantasy Stars and your Kirby's and your Simpsons here... I feel like the right things are moving up. Like we said, the cream is definitely moving to the top. I mean, these prices are crazy, but they're not 2022 crazy. So it seems like we're doing better in that sense.
Johnny, I'm forcing you to pick a game to invest in. You gotta pay in 10% no matter what it is.
I can just like I automatically.
NWC if you want. You could.
What's that?
You could pick NWC if you want, but you're gonna have to spend $20,000 of your money and put it in for like 10 years.
Do I think that's the right investment? Yeah, I think the gold is the right investment.
All right.
I can tell you what I think is definitely the wrong investment.
What's the wrong investment?
Phantasy Star.
I think that's probably the wrong investment. I would probably, if you're telling me for real, like I'm not taking $37,000 out of my 401k and putting it into Zelda stonks. So if I'm being realistic, I'm going to buy something cheap. I'll put it into the Mario. I could put $3,000 into the Mario stock and see what happens with that.
Yeah.
I don't think that has, just the way the market works, like in my mind, Mario is just so much better than these stupid like late prints, not late print, like mid prints that have like that they're sealed, right? Because the Mario's the thing, it's the first one, but this market doesn't care about that. They're like, ooh, shiny 9.8, ooh, A+. They don't like once it's complete in box, they're like, oh, well, that's the bullshit version, right? And it doesn't matter how rare it is. It's not even about rarity. It's just about it's sealed or bust. So that is it's probably the wrong investment because like Mario, is it ever going to be like a $100,000 game? Not the best one in the world. Who knows? So I'm saying I'm wrong and this market's crazy and all that matters. Johnny, let me go off.
Go ahead.
I don't even like when people buy the wrong variant of comic books and trading cards. And you think of a comic book. So the one I come back to is Marvel Comics 1, because I had an emotional reaction when this one sold. It sold for $1 million. This was a couple years ago. This might have been during like a height of the bubble type sale. And that's a comic that has a November. This is like 1939 or 1940. And it has a November cover and it has an October cover. And so this was probably the nicest copy like period that exists on Earth. But it was the November cover. You went back 80 years, but you didn't go back 80 years in 1 month. So you're buying the $1 million book. It's the wrong variant. But in the grand scheme of things, it was probably like there's like a 2-week period in between those two books. Like, who cares? Like, it's so close. But when we're talking about Super Mario Brothers, the game was in print from 1985 to 1994. It's like, you're talking 9 years. So when you're buying the shitty Mario Brothers, not only are you getting a much more common version of the game, but you're getting like, it's not even close. You could buy a Super Mario Brothers that came out when the Super Nintendo was a thing. Maybe was it 94? Maybe it was 93, 92. But either way, like 7+ years, you could be getting the way wrong variant on that. It's not at all like comic books. It's like it's the difference between buying a first print Harry Potter and like going to Barnes and Noble right now and buying Harry Potter. That's how I feel about these later print video games that still sell because they're in such nice condition, for tens of thousands of dollars.
It sounds crazy. I do have a question though. Have we both made mistakes? Have we learned nothing? Are we supposed to be buying Pokemon?
How's the Pokemon card market doing?
I think it's down, but I don't really know.
Oh, you know what? The YouTube has been recommending me sneakerhead videos. And
I do love sneakers.
Specifically 2024 sneaker videos where there's like a really kind of sad and desperate feel to the sneaker market. There's a lot of guys. So like, if you imagine who you think would be the guy who hustles and flips sneakers, like it is that guy who is out there hustling and flipping sneakers. And man, they just have like this sad aura around them. I'm like, oh man, yeah, I guess I'll take $1,600 for that. I just spent $2,200 for that. I'm a guy who likes a sad story. Like, I only like sad movies. If you want to see some sadness, look into the modern sneaker market. There's a bunch of sadness and lost hope.
I mean, we could go to late night Whatnot streams of sneaker videos.
I bet you could. And man, we always complain that the Whatnot people are like being sad about the prices that their things are selling for. I bet the sneakerheads are sad about the prices their things sometimes sell for.
Yeah. Me and you, a little after dark, we'll be scrolling Whatnot.
If you guys, so I know we got a lot of people listening to this right now who think like sealed games are the dumbest thing ever. If you think sealed games are the dumbest thing ever, like on at least a fundamental level, if you had a sealed copy of your favorite video game, your favorite game is Blaster Master, you have a sealed copy, it's like, great. That is now a thing that will always be in perfect condition. So like, regardless of the fact where you put any premium on the fact that it has like the magic air inside of it, it's the perfect condition of the thing you really like. With sneakers, the crazy thing is like, not only are they disposable, but they degrade over time. So you are investing thousands of dollars into something that will slowly wither away into nothing. It is like an anti-investment. It is the weirdest collecting category. I can't wrap my head around sneakers. I can wrap my head around trading cards, and those are worthless pieces of cardboard. I cannot wrap my head around sneakers. And that's why I watch these YouTube videos, obviously, because it's all madness to me.
Yeah, obviously.
Shout out to the sneakerheads listening to this right now.
I mean, I got some sneakers, but nothing like that.
What are we at? 2 hours?
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Time for the second quarter of this episode.
I don't think so. I think we can bruise through this part right here.
All right, I wanted to see what people were spending lots of money on eBay, Johnny. So I went to eBay and I sorted we should do this more often. I just looked at like the most expensive stuff that people have been buying. And then I didn't pick all of them. It turns out when you do that, you get a lot of like, it's all like buy it nows and buy it nows with best offers. And I know that like eBay buy it nows prices and completeds, like they're not even real anymore. So if I see like some crazy price sell for buy it now, like I just assume it's fake now. I only want auctions. But An 8.0 A plus Tekken, or no, what was it? It was just a random sealed Tekken, sold for $20,000, long box.
Just a sealed
Cool.
Tekken.
So you got the arcade game that was ported to PlayStation 1 that was then localized to America. That's the one to buy, baby. I mean, no, I get it. I get people only want American games, but you go over to Nintendo Land and everything is like all original. And why are we buying arcade ports? So actually, the Zelda Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages limited edition, that PAL thing, was that a Club Nintendo thing?
I don't know what that was, but it exists. It sure lives
That's
around.
That's super rare. It was like, is that limited to 1,000? Oh, now we got to look at it. Not very much. That's super rare, Johnny.
It is super rare, and it's very neat. It's just never been neat enough to justify the price.
$11,000. Go get it.
Oh, no.
I think it had like a really low serial. I think it had a single-digit serial number, too.
Oh, very special.
3 magical chases. 2 boxed. Both of them sold for $10,000. One of them complete in case for $6,000. Man, did you really spend $6,000 to settle on a magical chase without the box, dude? Like, come on. I realize $4,000 is $4,000.
But you're so close at that point.
You're not saving $4,000. You're wasting $6,000.
So
I think there are fights you can choose where you get the lesser thing, but when you're going for the top video game, if you're a TurboGrafx guy of all time, I think you can't settle. I'm telling you got to spend $4,000. If you're listening to the Collector's Quest podcast, you don't have to give us $4 a month for Patreon. You do have to spend an extra $4,000 to get a better magical chase.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's within 4,000, it used to be that this gap was much bigger, right? It'd be like, okay, the CIC is like $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000. The complete in box one is like 15 to 18. And it's like, okay, I get that. That's a much bigger disparity. But we're not talking about that anymore.
Yeah, what's up with Magical Chase? Why is the complete in box prices are definitely down from what they used to be, right?
It's definitely like PCE Works killed it.
They ruined turbo collecting. Like I didn't check these. These could be fake for all I know. I assume they're not because I assume the person spending $10,000 did their research.
Yeah.
Johnny, what's your Magical Chase box look like, by the way?
Doesn't look like a box at all.
Johnny, so I'm gonna need you to spend $10,000 on a complete box Magical Chase.
If it was this different, like if the difference had been $4,000, I would have considered it, but it was not that much.
Johnny, there's multiple Pokemon Red Sandshrew prints, lesser grades. So we're talking 9.2 A+, 8.0 A+, but these are the first print, and we're talking like less than $10,000 for these. Like, this is the thing for Pokemon Red. I don't think that these grades are maybe investable, quote unquote, because of how common this game is, even the first prints. But yeah, I'm going to say that if you spent $7,000 on a first print, you got a better deal than spending $100 and whatever thousand on the perfect condition mid print. A matte Ice Climber, graded 9.0, complete in box, sold for $9,000. I just don't know what's up with that. Someone is going crazy for a set. Johnny, I think this is the time for us to talk about the Nintendo Museum that just opened. Do you think that Matt Ice Climber belongs in the Nintendo Museum?
Yeah, I do.
All right, I'm gonna go look at the Nintendo Museum because they have footage of it.
I'm gonna tell you why, because I think all the black box games that released in America should have a little section, and they should be there. Now, do I think Ice Climber deserves a standalone section to be talked about? Absolutely not. It is only in the context of the rest of the black boxes does this game make any sense. Spoken from a guy who loves Ice Climber and even plays Ice Climbers as his main on Smash.
All right, I'm looking at the Museum of Nintendo. I think most people called this underwhelming. I think it seems fine, like whatever. So, I mean, it's a quote-unquote museum. They've got, like, little exhibits. They've got, like, giant Wii controllers that you point at big TVs, and they've got, like, a giant Wii Fit board. Like, they've got, like, little activities for you to do. But part of the museum section is they have all the black box games for NES, all the small box Famicom games, and then they have the re-released versions of the small box Famicom games that came in bigger boxes. I'm going to say awkwardly laid out on a display that's way too big for them. Maybe they're leaving room to expand. But I think notably, none of them are sealed. So if you're calling sealed games museum pieces, here we are. Nintendo made the museum. They're literally not. And they don't really care about variants. They do care about the major variants, like the actual differences in box sizes. But none of their black box games are like sticker sealed copies. They're all just like random, at least pretty good condition copies. Like some of them are a little bit like messed up, especially like their PAL ones are like messed up, I noticed. But they're not like, oh my God, here it is. We have at the Nintendo Museum the matte sticker Super Mario Brothers. No, they've got like a copy of Super Mario Brothers. They're like, don't worry about it. Here it is. It's the best game ever. Matte sticker, what are you talking about? Who cares?
Please tell me they didn't mix oval and circle seals.
This is actually, I'm going to give them a big thumbs up for this. Someone knew what they were doing. I don't think they have any oval seals.
Thank goodness.
They went all circle seals for the American copies. And that can't be a mistake because you would think like, yeah, maybe they get like a pinball or something. Someone looked at it and they're like, oh, we can't have this.
Yeah. All right. Thank goodness. All right. Whew, crisis averted. Hey, more of a crisis though. Talking about that ice climber that someone spent $9,000 on. Someone bought an 8.0 for $1,900 and they accepted the best, or one's currently available. They haven't bought it. $1,900 or best offer for an 8.0. And remember, an 8 to a 9 is not the same jump as like a 9.8 to a 9. Because there's not like an 8.8 or an 8.6. It's 8, 8.5. And
the sub conditions really matter for complete in box. I would assume for this, like you're basically buying the box. Like no one cares about your Ice Climber first print cartridge. You want the matte sticker box to be in the nicest condition possible.
Anyways, I just thought that was interesting.
I have to assume if you spent $9,000 on that, you're buying like a complete in box black box set, and you need to have the nicest condition in the world of every single one. It's not an investment. You're a rich guy collector. Maybe you think the black box games will always matter. After all, Nintendo did just put them in a museum.
Yep. All right. Go on. Next.
You know what? Let me just say that. So I didn't... Nintendo has acknowledged Nintendo World Championships again, but I don't think they really care about it. But when they make these NES remix games, they're like consistently keep putting these stupid black box games in. Mach Rider has more legs than Mach Rider has ever deserved to have in Nintendo's lore. So you know what? Maybe buying all the black box games is a good idea. You could tell yourself that until you get to like Donkey Kong Jr. Math, but I don't know. Maybe go buy some more black box games. I sure don't. I don't have even half the black box games. I don't think, Johnny.
Make sure you get volleyball.
Yeah, like I might have volleyball. I might have like Urban Champion too, but.
Get your Wild Gunman.
So many I don't have. I don't have a Wild Gunman, I don't think.
A Wrecking Crew? You gotta have Wrecking Crew, right?
I do have a Wrecking Crew because it's a Mario game.
Yeah.
But is Mario in Donkey Kong Jr. Math at all?
I don't know. Tennis? You got tennis?
I must have tennis because I love tennis and Super Tennis. I remember going off on the price of Super Tennis. I'm like, Super Tennis is way too cheap. This game is an SNES classic.
Kung Fu?
I probably have Kung Fu, yeah.
All right.
I don't have soccer. Johnny, Daytona Netlink apparently sold for $9,000 complete in box. What? If you don't know, that is the rarest Sega Saturn game, kind of by a long shot. But $9,000, bro,
it's a lot
like
of money.
2 years ago, I feel like VG Collectaholic bought a sealed one for not that much, didn't he?
I think, yeah.
Or did he always have that? But
I think he just got it.
Like the sealed price has turned into the complete in box price for a really rare game that should be super niche.
Yeah, and one sold earlier this year for $5,000.
I just don't believe that if one sold for $5,000, that someone got desperate to almost double the price in a buy it now. That seems crazy to me.
Does seem crazy.
I do not believe the next Daytona Netlink will sell for more than $9,000.
Place your bets.
Whatever. There's a bunch of Pokemon Yellows. I think there was a crazy Pokemon Yellow sale in the Heritage auction that I just skipped because man, I don't care about Pokemon Yellow. I think it was like $30,000 or something. And then you go on eBay and there's like nice copies, like 9.6 A pluses, well under $10,000, and you get to like the lesser copies, like under $3,000. Just if you need a Pokemon Yellow, they are available.
You can get one. Nice.
Yeah, whatever. Pokemon Blue sold for $7,000. Pokemon Gold sold for $6,000. A really nice Dinosaur Peak on NES sold for $5,600.
It was nice. Super nice.
The Tidal Wave insert and everything. Whew.
Yeah. I mean, it was super complete.
Good stuff. I don't know if that just seems like what that's always been. That doesn't seem like it has spiked or gone anywhere, right?
No. Yeah, there was a lesser copy that also sold for $5,000. But like maybe the boxes were comparable, but it didn't have all the inserts, didn't have the bagging and stuff. You just looked at it and you're just like, this is not as good as this other one. And now carts only though, were dropping down near the $1,000 range, which I thought was, I'm not going to say the word cheap, but less expensive than I thought they'd be.
I mean, Dinosaur Peak has always been a weird game because cartridge only, you can get the copies from Brazil. And as far as I know, they're exactly identical to the cartridges in the US, but the complete in box copies, you have to get the US version.
Well, wasn't the back label different on the back of the cart? It's the only thing.
Yeah, I think
Like
maybe
the
the back label was different, but all the guys who were selling them in Brazil, they would swap it to the correct back label.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
What a world. I'm almost positive that my copy of Dinosaur Peak was originally from Brazil, so I really only own like 2/3 of a copy of Dinosaur Peak and 1/3 of a copy of probably, like Zoda's Revenge or something.
Oh well.
Johnny, there have been these Mega Man first prints. Was this in Heritage Auctions?
I hate Mega Man first prints so much. This is a game that went crazy. If you don't understand, the first print has an error on it where they refer to Dr. Light as Dr. Wright. In big text on the back of the box. Like, you know this error, right? I don't have to explain this to you.
I mean, yes, I know this error. It's a typo on the back of the box, basically. And it's got the big Captain Commando seal on the front. Yes.
And there are second prints also that have that seal with the name correction on it. So the seal isn't the only thing that denotes a first print. You have to have this error text. But the prices are they're all over, Tyler. I just don't understand. So a CIB 9.0 first print went for $5,000.
$5,500.
$55,000.
On
There's
eBay.
Also, on eBay. And then there was other copies that went for $5,000. And then there's an 8.5. And again, remember the jump from 9 to 8.5 is not that big. $880.
I'm going to take the 8.5 on that one. That's my investment.
Okay, and then an 8.0 went for $810, and there's no way I wouldn't just pay the $70 more for a 0.5 upgrade here. Okay, but then there was a CIB buy it now for $720.
If you're telling me I can win this in an auction right now for $400, I'm sold. Keep going down.
Yeah, but why did someone buy it now at $720 for something that probably isn't going to get a lot of times an 8.5 will look really nice. It'll still look really nice. It's probably better than average.
That's actually like a really good complete in box grade. Because in the complete in box, every single component gets dinged. So when you're dealing with a sealed game, usually the box is perfect because it's protected in shrink wrap and people have babied it forever. But when every single component has been handled, all of a sudden it's really hard to get a 9 on anything.
Yeah, so I'm not taking a random CIB copy at $720 if I can get an 8.5 at $880. Yes, I know that these things aren't available exactly at the same time. The buyer isn't making the incorrect decision because he didn't have all of them available in which to choose from. But if you're looking into prices and stuff, you got to be considering that. And then on Heritage Auctions, a 9.0 Mega Man went for $3,000. And I just think eBay and Heritage, they just don't talk to each other. So the prices can be wildly different between the two.
What a world. I'm looking at all the first print Mega Mans on eBay right now.
There's so many on
all over the place.
There is no consistency. There was some box onlys that sold for like $200, and the box is the part you want. So like one sold with cellophane on the box for like $225. Man, wish I would have seen that. I would have. Yeah. Anyways, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Shout out to Game Gallery with the $900 first print Mega Man, which is kind of right in line with the ones we just said that sold. Buy it now. But they are prominently displaying, so they're holding the box up to the reflection in the light, and you could see that it has pen marks where someone scribbled on it. Man, I've got to say, if I own a grading company, this box is not a 9.0 with those scribble marks, but shout out to showing us those scribble marks so we know not to buy it.
Yeah.
Ugh, pen imprints on a game. Oh, the worst.
I hate it. All right. And then we had a 7.0 Contra. It's sealed. 7.0A seal. 5,500. How do you feel about that?
How it like 7.0A is garbage. That's like trash on the street. And you're telling me the 9.4A plus like near mint is 8,700?
Yeah.
In what world? All right.
Anyways, just ruminate on that for a bit. We got a Double Dragon. Hey, you care about Double Dragon? That's an important game, right?
Just skip the Double Dragon. Who cares?
9.6A plus for 5,300. How about this one? Here's a more reasonable one. Mario Kart 64. A 9.0 A plus 5,100. That seems like a good price, right?
So, like, what's going on? So, I thought Mario Kart 64 is not super common sealed, but I guess it probably is because it's Mario Kart 64. If I'm a millennial, I've been in the workforce for 10 years. I love Nintendo 64 because I'm wrong about video games. If I have watched too much YouTube and I've gone down the sealed game rabbit hole and I have $5,000 and I need to spend on my favorite game, Mario Kart 64, I don't know. I feel like that's not like maybe the worst thing in the world. Is there something wrong with that copy?
No. It's a 9.0 A plus.
I mean, all right, 9.0 doesn't feel the best, but it has the psychological 9. A plus you could always feel good about. You know, this isn't like the investment copy, but like I bet whoever bought this is happy with it, Johnny.
Yeah. Well, how do you think the guy on Heritage Auctions that bought one for 11,500?
You know, I bet he probably feels worse about this. Oh, you know what? I've got some bad news. Johnny, do you know the bad news? Have you already looked at this?
No.
The person who bought the one on eBay for less than half the price has 29,000 feedback, so very likely it is not a happy millennial who just got his dream game.
It's
that Mario Kart will now be on sale on eBay for $15,000.
Yeah, or on Heritage Auctions.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah. All right.
Anyways. We got some other games on here. You want to tell me about this Diablo 2?
Yeah, I don't know, Diablo 2 Collector's Edition. I am not going to call it at the top of PC gaming. It is a very well-known big box PC game because it's one Diablo 2. It comes in a giant box that's very recognizable. There were 70,000 of them made, which is a very large number, but they still sell for some decent money. I don't know, some hundreds of dollars, maybe a couple $100. Sealed one sold for $3,300. I don't know, that's very high up there considering how much big box PC games generally sell for. Also, very grail big box PC game, Commander Keen Goodbye Galaxy. Sealed copy sold for $3,300. And then when you scrolled later down the eBay listings, it said private listing only for blah, blah, blah. And then it sold for $2,200. So did the first one not get paid for, and then he second chance offered someone with a buy it now? I don't know.
That's weird.
Commander Keen and Goodbye Galaxy, for whatever reason. I think the game, it came pre-installed on certain HP computers, so for a certain group of people, including myself, this is a very nostalgic game. But I never owned a box of it. I've never even seen a box of it. I mean, I've seen it, but I've never seen one in real life. I would very much like to own that, but this game is also just incredibly expensive for whatever reason. All in the Commander Keen sense, the first Keen game, Commander Keen and Keen Dreams, this game doesn't even have a box, but it comes with a bunch of like little inserts and survey stuff that it was they've sent it to you in the mail. $2,700 for like 3 floppy disks and like a bunch of Apogee paraphernalia. That's crazy. Not a lot of PC games sell for that kind of money, but Commander Keen pulls it in, dude.
I'm baffled by this. I'm like, what?
Also, I'm sorry, Keen Dreams isn't the first one in the series. It's like the third. Dude, people love Commander Keen.
I guess so. Well, let's talk about something I love and understand because I'm old. Let's talk about Super Metroid. Yeah, you want to? Okay.
Is it going to be sealed? I'm done with these sealed games. Let's get relatable.
80. All right, an 80 plus sold for $2,800. That good?
That feels all right. If you're a collector and you're not going to be able to get like the Super Mint Super Metroid, that feels fine. If that really comes down to how the damage is, how it looks. Yeah. I would feel okay with that.
Okay, but then a not graded one. Let's travel back to August of 2022, so 2 years ago, $7,600 for a not graded one.
That must have been a much nicer not graded one, huh?
Nope. In June, a 9.4 A plus sold for $5,200.
What are the other games we're talking? We're talking about like Contra and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I would take Super Metroid over Contra. Sorry, Contra.
Oh yeah,
I love 100%. Contra, but yeah, Super Metroid's like the game, dude.
Yeah, it's great. Everyone loves Super Metroid. In March, a VGA 80 of this year sold for $6,400.
What's going on with the price of Super Metroid? Do people know like you could look up the price history before you put a bid in, or what?
I don't know. Hey,
also, these prices are all even more reasonable considering how expensive Super Metroid is complete in box now. Like $400 more or less for a nice one. I'm not saying like a 5x premium is like, almost an 8x premium is like that reasonable, but I don't know. I'm not buying it, but it doesn't feel as bad as some of these games that have 100x premiums.
There was also in 2 years ago, back in August 2022, an 85 plus sold for $10,000.
I don't know. People don't know what to feel about Super Metroid. Like
they don't.
I think it comes down to like, are the people buying sealed Super Metroids for like these many $1,000s? Like, I'm not trying to gatekeep. I'm going to say a very gatekeeping thing here, but I'm being real. Have the people paying $10,000 for a VGA 85 plus Super Metroid played Super Metroid? Because I will very much believe that the person who got a Super Metroid for $2,800 is like a collector who stretched to get his favorite game sealed. And sure, but I don't know how many people are stretching to spend $10,000 plus just to own it, not hoping for it to appreciate in price. I don't know, man.
I don't know. Here's a weird one. Jack Bros. You know Jack Bros? Virtual Boy All-Star?
Oh yeah, Jack Bros. I think, did we mention that in Heritage Auctions? Didn't it sell for some crazy price? Did it sell for $20,000?
I think so. Did you mention
it? I think we might not have mentioned it. Yeah, by the way, guys, there was a Jack Bros, the quote-unquote rarest Virtual Boy game. Is it the rarest, or is Waterworld really the rarest, just not as cool?
I don't know.
All right.
There's not a lot of CIBs available right now, I'll tell you that.
$20,625 for a 9.2 A plus Jack Bros. That's like one of those things like Phantasy Star. Like, I don't care that it's the rarest Virtual Boy game or the second rarest Virtual Boy game. Who cares about Jack Bros? $20,000 worth?
Well, I mean, it's part of the SMT series, right?
I don't know if you're actually making an argument or facetiously making an argument.
Both.
You know what? I guarantee, whoever owns this Jack Bros doesn't have an MSX copy of Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga. Oh, it's part of the Megami Tensei series. They definitely don't have that sealed. I bet that's probably something really rare sealed. The first Megami Tensei game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. Jack Bros, like the Japanese version, that's like a garbage new old stock game. Like there's a bunch of Japanese Virtual Boy games that are just garbage new old stock, and Jack Bros is one of them. You could pick one up for like a couple $100.
Yeah, it's not that.
Go complete your Virtual Boy set, guys.
So a CIB, $2,500 now for Jack Bros.
That's a lot, but you know, kind of understandable in the world of the world.
January, here's how Jack Bros is the rare one, but if you think, that 25 is like a normal price, let me take you back to January of 2023 when they were selling around $700. That's a large jump since January of 2023.
Guys, you thought the world ended in 2021. You didn't even know you could have been hunting deals on Grails. I mean, I talk like bullshit all the time, but that's like maybe actual advice. Even when the world seems like it is ending, Jack Bros just got 4 times worse in a year and a half. Jack Bros. This isn't some obscure game that like no one ever thought this could possibly spike. It wouldn't be a game I would assume spikes, because who's talking about Jack Bros? But it is a game that is probably on your radar, at least as some kind of collector. So if it's something you've been interested in, you've basically missed the boat since just 2023 after you thought things were already at their peak.
Yeah.
So even right now, however, whatever the market is right now, this weird wishy-washy thing, there are probably deals that will be worse in the future, regardless of which way the overall market goes.
I know at like $700-800, people looked at that and went, "Oh, missed the boat on this," and they didn't understand how far they were missing the boat on it. Actually,
I would say for $2,500, maybe consider buying other things on your want list. You can get a lot of cool video games for $2,500. It might be your entire budget for video games in a year.
Yeah.
I don't want I just want to be very clear. It is way too late in the episode. I don't want to normalize like these we're talking about these prices like $5,000, $2,800 for Super Metroid. Like these are all like crazy prices for video games still. Like I realize normal people pay on average like $35 for a video game, myself included. So we're not like, I'm not trying to be normal like, oh, just buy the $2,500 Jack Bros. That's a normal thing to do. Unless Virtual Boy is your favorite thing. But you know what? If Virtual Boy was your favorite thing, you would already have Jack Bros, wouldn't you, huh?
Probably.
Go get the Japanese version. It's always the answer.
All right. What else on this list shall we run down? You want to talk about Airzonk?
No, I don't want to talk about Airzonk.
Okay.
Who cares?
Tell me about Little Samson.
There were 4 copies of Little Samson. You want to talk about the heroes of this list. 4 loose copies of Little Samson sold in the $2,000 to $2,300 range, which is like holding steady. It's Little Samson's thing. I realize it has gone up since we called it holding steady at like $1,200. People still want Little Samson. People are still out there completing their loose NES set. Interestingly, this has come up more than anything at this price range. The other things that come up, I think maybe like Pokemon Red and Pokemon Yellow probably had a bunch of copies too. Doom Complete in Box. 3 different rare versions of Doom. This might be an anomaly because this was sold by like a known like a high-end PC reseller. But Doom 1.1 CIB, which is the first print of Doom, $2,000 and $2,300. I think those are record sales. And then the CD version, which is actually the very rare late print of Doom, sold for $2,000. Before people cared about first prints and stuff, like the CD Doom was like the collectible one. It's kind of crazy to see it, basically neck and neck with 1.1 now. I wonder if, I really wonder who bought that. Was it like a Doom collector who's been looking for this forever? Or was it just like someone was like, oh, this is the rare Doom thing and Doom is the coolest thing? Was it Carl Jobst? We'll never know. Johnny, Atari 2600 Jackie Jump?
No.
Sold for $2,100. You want to talk about a game? Who is talking about Jackie Jump? We're talking about like, man, these are like PAL Atari R10s. They are still out here, guys. They're not in your Facebook group. They're not on your forum. They're definitely not in your Discord. But man, the Atari guys are out here and they're like, oh my God, my save search just hit for the PAL. It's a re-release. I forgot what the original name of it. Jackie Jump is a re-release of another game. And it sold for $2,100 because it's an R10, meaning it's a super rare Atari game. Oh, I love it. Jackie Jump. Yes. Jackie Jump, by the way, if you didn't know, I think it's in the running for first named female protagonist.
Ooh.
It's weird. It's a
listening.
weird one, and I haven't done my full research on it. The copyright on the cartridge says 1981, which would make it the first named female protagonist, which is pretty crazy. But most of the release dates say 1983, so I don't know which one to believe. I need to do more research on that. Even crazier, I want to look up the original name. The original one has a boy on it. I think they changed the gender of the protagonist. So the original release, I think, was a boy, and the re-release is a girl. In which case, what if the original was released in 1981, but the re-release was released in 1983? But what if they never changed the code? Oh. In that case, is Jackie Jump the first female protagonist? If it was retconned.
This feels too much like political ideology all of a sudden, and I don't want any part of it.
I'm gonna say no, it would not count in that case. Anyway, interesting game. You've never heard of it. It's a terrible game. Whatever. Star Fox Super Weekend, Johnny, $2,100. I haven't been tracking those prices. That seems
fine.
I thought that was going crazy. Like, I think these were like $1,000 in normal times, right? So normal times being 5 years ago.
I don't know. This seems like in line to me.
Yeah, this is like Donkey Kong has gone crazy now. But I think it's $2,100, but you'll buy it, you jerk.
Yeah.
Hagane, not complete in box, but cart instructions in box, $2,100 does not feel too bad, honestly.
No, and look, that's like pretty good sales, and a lot of sales are closer to 2,500. But it's only sold. It sells less than 10 a year, still even at these prices. But people are still asking crazy money for this game.
I know.
So that's
what's so funny. You think of Hagane and you think of like these huge numbers. Like if you look for Hagane on eBay, you're probably going to see someone asking like $7,000 for complete in box. But then when one actually comes up at a no reserve auction, it doesn't sell for anywhere near that.
Yeah. Well, and that's a point I wanted to make is that open auctions versus buy it nows. Okay. Buy it now people have not come back to earth. Open auctions are telling us that these crazy buy it nows are wrong and they're just sitting there. Like, again, less than 10 sold in a year, right? But there's like 10 available for buy it now right now that have been sitting forever at these crazy prices. So I don't know when this is going to start to normalize, and this is for like all of games. You have these super crazy buy it nows, and it's not like one person with that outlier like, oh, pay me $1 million for this game if you really want. It's just like people who are like 50% over market or 200% over market. But there's also like 3 other guys sitting around their price too. And they're all just going to be sitting there, with it in their hand. And nothing's going to happen.
Let me give you an example of how long Hagane will be sitting here, Johnny. I'm going to go through the first results on eBay. Hagane, $14,000. Looks like a very, very nice copy. Hagane, $13,000. Looks like a very, very nice copy. Hagane, $10,000. Looks like a pretty nice copy. Might be a little sun faded. You get down to $8,000. Hagane prototype. So there's 3 copies that are more expensive than the buy it now prototype. Yeah. And then you get into the cheaper complete in box copies. This is also one of those games. I recognize Hagane is a genuinely uncommon, hard to find game. And these buy it nows are just like pie in the sky prices that are sitting forever. A lot of the really high priced buy it nows though are 100% complete. So it's crazy to be looking for a quote unquote rare game, and the first things you scroll through are literally 6 really nice complete in box copies of that game. Kind of makes it seem like not the rarest Super Nintendo game, huh?
It does, and it might be. It could still be the rarest, and these might be the only 6 available. But 6 people went insane at the same time, and the market went, nah, dog, I don't think so.
Yeah. Like on one of these, like one of the lower priced ones, it has 80 watchers. Like how long does an eBay auction have to be up for it to get 80 watchers at like a pie in the sky price?
Forever.
All right.
Especially a game like Hagane, which again, uncommon, not so uncommon that it never shows up.
I feel like in future, if we ever do this again, we should go from like $2,500 to $1,000 and just like, because we went over a bunch of seal stuff that no one really cares about.
Yeah.
I don't. You know what? Let's leave that because we're intruding right now on the Video Game Collectors Podcast territory. They do go over interesting eBay sales. They mentioned a quad run recently that sold for $1,500. It's a rare mail order Atari game that no one cares about anymore. So we need to start stealing actually some of that more mid-price territory.
Okay, that's fine with me. And I don't. Also, that's like their permanent territory. This is a place I don't want to live. This is a place I only want to drive through once in a while when I have to.
Yep, doing normal people stuff like video games for thousands of dollars because they have a little bit of shrink wrap or because no one wanted to buy it. It's normal stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and I'm trying to be like reasonable, be like, yeah, there's like a fine price, but you're not catching me buying these sealed games. This is insanity.
If you think all these games sound super dumb, what you should do is say, hey, the next time you see what's a complete in box DuckTales, whatever the price, I don't care what a complete in box DuckTales costs anymore. Just think, wow, this is so much of a better deal than all that stuff Collector's Quest was talking about when they were talking about all those sealed games and high-end eBay sales.
Yeah. Anyways, let's talk about Crusader of Senti real quick. This is a popular Genesis rarity people love to talk about. The prices for this game are insane. It is a squiggly line. It's literally up, down, up, down, up, down, everywhere. And yes, this game is condition sensitive in the box, but it goes from like 1,800 to 1,000 to 2,500. Literally, I couldn't tell you, and I'm like looking at the conditions, I couldn't pinpoint to you how this price is working. It's just it's selling regularly enough that there's other examples, or if you just waited, I don't know if it's just like people came in and it's just like, well, I'm buying this today, and they just bought the one that was available at whatever the price was, or what. I don't know what happened with this game.
Yeah, if you asked me, this was one of the games that I think was going to the moon the last time I looked at it, and $1,800 feels like a real crash back down to earth. I didn't realize it's still very expensive, but I think this is literally the most expensive game in the Genesis set, right?
Yeah. I mean, aside from Outback Joey.
Sure. Well, we'll debate that if you want to just like get way into that right now.
I don't.
Yeah. Like I'm looking at, you can get a super duper nice Musha at $1,300, and that's a buy now that no one will ever buy. So, yeah, Crusader of Senti is still up there. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
It's going up and down. Johnny, we are now, unless you wanted to mention, a Resident Evil jewel case. So the small box version sold sealed for $17,500. And I skipped that because I thought that wasn't interesting. And you're like, but it's Resident Evil, $17,000, Tyler.
And it's not even the first print, right? It's not the copy of Resident Evil still selling for $17,000.
Well,
just
like the copy sells for like way more, right? That's like a crazy game, isn't it?
Is it anymore? Who knows?
Who knows? There's no way to look up prices that we could possibly know.
How could I possibly do this, Tyler? There are no tools. These fingers don't work that way. It's best if I just look at this and then say vague things like, who knows?
All right, the last long box, by the way, was $38,000. So you know what? Half the price for the small box, I would say, what are you doing? Save your money, get the long box.
Yeah, buy something else. Buy something else. Go buy Resident Evil 2 or something. Stop it.
Yeah, get a good Resident Evil game. Get like 2 or 4 or something. What are you doing?
Or buy the one on the Saturn.
Get Resident Evil. I don't even remember. Veronica Chronicles, the one that there's like a PS2 game that no one's ever heard of. It's obviously not Code Veronica. There's like another Veronica one that no one ever played. Whatever. It's the sequel to Resident Evil Survivor.
It didn't come out in America. We're talking about that on Halloween, so just get out of here.
Oh, we're not allowed to tell. We're giving spoilers. Oh,
yeah.
Johnny, general vibes on the market.
All right, I'm vibing. Me and Price Charting are vibing. Talking about sealed stuff.
I think we have talked about this enough over the past year or so, and I don't think things have changed. Inflation means that $100 today in 2021 was worth $86, meaning your money is worth less. So when prices are down, they're down more than they seem because the money is worth less now.
Yeah.
So when you look at Complete in Box, NES, SNES, and 64, all of those they peaked 1 to 2 years ago, and they're all down 10%. But really, because of inflation, it's more like 20%.
Yeah, make sure your interest is in a high yield savings account or CDs or bonds or something, because if it's just sitting there, it's decreasing.
Let me tell you about the magic that TikTok investors hate, but it's called an S&P 500 index fund. Whew. Open up that Vanguard account. Forget high yield savings accounts are scams. Put that money in the stock market and spin the wheels, baby.
Do it.
Complete
not financial advice.
This is financial advice. I'm telling. Put your money in the stock market.
Not
Don't do like stupid things.
Advice.
Put it in like an index fund. It's safe enough to put your savings in there.
Not
like keep like
$1,000
as like an emergency fund, and then don't just have the rest of your money just sitting in a savings account. Put in an investment.
I mean, if you're gonna just have it sitting in a savings account, make it a high yield account. Try to be getting like 4% back on your money at least.
Is that a thing? I mean, maybe interest rates are up. I completely closed my savings account. My last savings account, the savings rate was 0.1%. And they asked me why I was closing it. And I'm like, my guy, you are paying 0.1%.
Yeah, no, that's why it needs to be in a high yield account.
Yeah.
So, and you got to watch out for these like sneaky promos. So a lot of these high yield accounts, you'll get them and they're like, oh, come join our bank. We've got like a 0.5%. But then it's like only like a 1 year term that they want to pay you that, and then, or 3 months. And then they like revert you down to a lower term. So be careful with terms on high yield accounts. And if you don't know what a high yield savings account, I do invite you to take this time to pause this podcast and then go do something useful like Google high yield savings account and figure out how to get your money in one of those. If it's just sitting in like your Chase Bank savings or something, you know, your Wells Fargo account. Don't do that.
You can get up to 5% APY, Johnny, if you put your money in the most sketchy banks that you have never heard of.
Yes.
Thanks, Forbes.com, for recommending me banks such as Quantic.
Yeah, a lot of them are just like online institutions. So again, do your research on all these, you know, check their numbers, make sure that they're good, that they're legitimate institutions.
Brio Direct, right? Brio Direct is that gives me the highest yield, 5.3 APY.
I mean, look, they've got an FDIC number, so
I would all right. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you what to do with your money. You know what? Better financial advice for anyone listening to this podcast, just like maybe spend a little bit less money on video games. You know, what are we talking? We got interest rates. They're more than double what they were in 2021. Housing prices are still to the moon. They're not going up, but they're not like crashing that much either. So maybe we got to do something about the video games. You can't be like, oh, I'm never going to own a house. I'm just going to put all my money in video games and be sad about it. We got to start saving and being disciplined, because the only way to start the snowball rolling is to actually pack some snow together and build that snowball, Johnny. I'm trying to be motivational to someone. Okay. It's really hopeless out here.
It's real bad. I just want to go back to the bank thing, because you were saying they're all like sketchy banks.
Yeah.
You can get like, you've all heard of SoFi checkings and savings. You can get 4.6 from them. Amex, you can get a 4.25. Capital One, you can get a 4.25. These things exist. You can do better if you're willing to use as Tyler would say, a sketchier, lesser known bank that obviously they need to draw you in with better promotions. But there are like more stable institutions that you've heard of available as well. So just don't be scared because Tyler called them all sketchy. Anyways, back to what you were saying.
Johnny, I only trust the institutions that I know and love, like Wells Fargo and Bank of America, the most trustworthy companies in America.
I love thieves. Do we want to get on a Johnny rant on why all banks are thieves and why? Never, just don't do it.
I mean, Wells Fargo loves you so much that, you know what? You might already have an account with them because they opened one up without you knowing.
Nice.
How great is that? That's so convenient.
Thanks, Wells Fargo. I always wanted extra points. Anyways.
Johnny, Complete in Box Atari 2600 peaked at 2022, and we are still there. Atari games are as expensive as they have ever been, and people make fun of Atari for being garbage.
It is garbage, and it's just garbage that boomers are willing to pay for.
The average Atari price is still way lower than Nintendo prices, so that's probably why they're staying there. I mean, after inflation, they're actually down. So,
I mean, if you want to know their prices on CIBs on average, then you can go to price charting and then look at loose and then see how they have median and average available on their chart and not CIB. So you can enjoy that.
What are you talking about?
They don't have CIB available as a sort for the whole set for their prices.
Price Charting's website is garbage. They probably do, and it's just like not showing up.
They definitely do, but I will never miss the opportunity to take the shot at them.
Okay.
Where they're like, median is the right choice. You're like, not in it. No, it isn't. Not in this case. It's just bad data. Anyways, go on.
I don't know. Johnny, I'm just giving some quick vibes. GameCube, we're basically at the peak. So GameCube peaked last year. We're maybe like slightly down, especially with inflation, but we're basically at the peak of GameCube. Game Boy peaked 2 years ago. We are still there. All the consoles are down. Game Boy holding strong because you know what? There's not enough Game Boy games. PS1 peaked 2 years ago. We are still at the peak because PS1 was always underappreciated. Am I wrong?
No.
Same thing with PS2. PS2 peaked last year, and we're still at the peak. But Genesis, Sega guys, what are you doing? Come on. We got Sony guys. Sony's got a lot of unique games, a lot of exclusives. I mean, I guess Sega does too, but
Sega guys
no
don't
one cares
want to spend.
about Sega. Get out of here. You're down 10%. You're probably down like 20% with inflation. Just
they don't want to spend that cheddar.
Get out of here. Wii, Complete in Box Wii is at the all-time. Wii is so funny because going back in price charting, it goes back to 2008. Which was like still the time of the Wii. So you could see the fall from retail in the Wii. Everything else basically starts from 0 in price charting, and then you get to see the slow ramp up as it became collectible over time. But with Wii and beyond, you get to see the fall from grace of retail games and the very beginning of it becoming somewhat collectible. But yeah, Wii, if you looked at that chart, you would basically just say like, yeah, Wii is not collectible. It's done nothing. Kind of the same... a little bit the same with DS, except DS is just kind of on a steady rise. Yeah, those have not fallen at all. If you're investing, invest in DS games. Look at that trend line. Can't go down. You feel good about that?
I feel great about that. You should not just be like, you should be very, like the Wii and the DS are just gigantic sets. They're just gigantic. Like you should look at individual games to pick out what you want to happen if you are collecting either of these systems, because set collecting for either of these is a terrible proposition in general. And then you just, terrible.
I think
terrible idea.
Set collecting the Wii is just genuinely terrible. I think set collecting the DS.
Hold on. Let me tell you how nice it was.
I think set collecting the DS is pretty cool. I think if you have a shelf like full of all the Wii games, like it's cool. But man, you've got like, what is it, like 1,600 DS games? Like some crazy amount of DS games.
So many.
Oh, that looks so cool on a shelf though. That's a lot of games in one. They got all the white spines. Collector's Quest Game of the Year, best video game box.
It used to be that the DS was the biggest library, but now it's Switch.
Oh man. And physical media is eventually dying. That just means for the rest of the time we're in this hobby, we're going to be inundated with just huge shelves full of Switch games.
Yep. It's happening. When do they fall off a cliff?
I mean, if physical media dies, do Switch games ever fall off a cliff?
I don't know.
There's
a topic for another episode.
Man, you look at these sales numbers in the top games. There's a lot of like multiple times how many Wii U's have ever sold.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Animal Crossing will never be worth anything in the long run, but who knows? That's it. I mean, the vibes are, I guess if you were to say, if you are saying going up is good, the vibes are kind of down. The vibes are not great. Partially economy based. maybe a good time to find deals. I think we've been saying that for about a year.
Yeah.
I've been buying some weird stuff.
Same.
Not really market related. I've just been bored with the normal stuff I collect, so I'm only getting like the real niche stuff. Thank you for that Temple of Apshai, Johnny.
Oh, you thank the podcast. The podcast loves you. The podcast is euphoric.
I'm this is like the one console that hasn't gone down. I feel like I'm gonna start picking away at some Atari wants. How come Atari isn't dropping? I feel like Atari is so cheap. Like, I look at some of the complete in box games I want, and they're like $14 shipped, and I'm just like, why am I not just like buying these?
Because boomers are still in it. They don't read websites, so they don't know.
But like, if these guys die, like all this stuff is going to estate sales, and then they're gonna get like shuffled around with resellers who aren't gonna treat the boxes nice. Like, I might as well, like, it's already hard enough to find nice stuff. Let me just go get some more Atari games.
So get all your nice Atari stuff right now. Go do it.
You gotta pump me up. Viewmaster's over. I told you Viewmaster was gonna be like a couple weeks in and out. I've got like 400 Viewmaster reels. They're fantastic. I haven't even looked at all of them yet. It's a thing where I like look at it every once in a while, and I'm like, yeah, let me check out a couple Viewmaster reels. That's the kind of collection I wanted it to be. I did not spend any money at all on that stuff. That's great.
Perfect.
I want to get back into game collecting, Johnny. You have to motivate me to buy video games. The way to motivate me is to talk about cool Atari games.
All right. Let's get Spider Droid.
Okay, I might already have Spider Droid.
Spider Fighter.
Johnny, what are we at? Are we at 3 hours yet? Almost.
We are.
What is part 4 of this episode? How we're going to close it out. I want you to give me the hot investment picks. This is actually, someone asked this in the chat as a suggested episode, but I feel like it's too weird for us to do an entire episode of speculative picks. That feels weird to me. And, you know, I'd probably be saying the same stuff. I'd be saying, I'll just get Mario, Zelda, Pokemon. You know, I'd probably just say go for the Japanese ones. If they're 100th of the price, they have a lot more room to grow.
I think Japanese stuff is going to be hard right now with the yen being down and people like just bringing all this stuff over and lots more people just investing in Japanese games in general. I think like, I don't know if the boat has sailed on that, but it feels like a flat, like not so good. Feels
so
like
a lot,
it's
like the new old stock stuff in Japan, like a lot of there's some desirable stuff that comes up all the time. It's the case pack stuff. This is the things we think of like as worthless case pack games. There's a bunch of that in Japan, and there's a couple of these sellers who have the case packs, and the good stuff comes up. They've got case packs of like Sweet Home, Super Mario USA, the original Legend of Zelda, early prints of the original Legend of Zelda, the cartridge release of the original Legend of Zelda, Castlevania, Metroid. All of these are case pack games. So even though there's a lot more people going for this stuff than there were, say, 3 years ago, there's definitely enough of it to go around. And that also means like, well, if literally I could buy another copy of Castlevania every single week, like how is the price going to explode on that? I agree. The only way the price is going to explode on that is if the supply runs out, which it would have to eventually, right? Unless these are all fake.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want my hot investment pick is going to be just the common stuff from Japan. Not even like going after like rare stuff that you have to search for. Like literally the stuff that comes up every single week. All of it sells for less than $1,000. And you've seen on Heritage Auctions, if people see a franchise they recognize, sometimes they're just like, I don't know, Kirby's Dream Land 3, $30,000, $35,000. So I see a world. And if you're buying like $400 copies of Castlevania, you more than double your money. That's my speculative pick.
All right. My speculative pick is going to be the same thing I've been beating on about for a long time. Inserts. Inserts and manuals are the thing to just make your copy the most complete copy. As more and more CIB games get graded and like we just start running out of sealed games to populate reports on, more and more CIBs are going to be leaned on as investment opportunities from other people. So you be the guy who's got the nice version of these manuals, all these maps, inserts, and then you stand to make money.
I strongly disagree with your pick. And you could
Why?
also, you could disagree with my pick. Also, I have tons of sealed Famicom Disk System games from literally buying these for my personal collection. So, like, don't listen to me. I'm super biased.
I started with disagreeing with you. I'm thinking that Japan, I think, is not a good investment right now.
But the market, the crazy high-end market, has proven that, like, Complete in Box is garbage. And not only is Complete in Box as a concept garbage, the highest selling Complete in Box game was Matt Sticker's Super Mario Brothers, which I think is, like, the peak. And that copy, like every copy, was missing the fucking poster, the relatively uncommon poster, and it sold for $32,500. It's not even complete. It's not complete. You could have got a poster. The poster's like $100, maybe less than $100. You couldn't even complete your $30,000 game with it. They do not care about the inserts, Johnny. They want the number on the box. The inserts don't add to the grade. It doesn't fucking matter.
I just don't think that there's going to be enough sealed copies to sustain it. And once they figure that out, there's got too many people are invested in this as an idea to let it slide.
So the problem is, if you're speculating on numbers, if this is all just like stock options trading to you, and you're trying to use like some kind of data-driven thing about it, you're charting numbers, and when the inserts don't affect the numbers, and everyone kind of has that mentality, which is largely the way it is, you know, except for the inserts, like as people started caring about the Tyson letter and things like that. I don't think they're ever going to command like such a premium in a world where the super, super high end already doesn't care about Complete in Box.
Well, we shall see.
We'll see. You speculate on those manuals, manual man who goes and buys out every convention we go to, buys the entire floor of manuals.
I love having manuals.
Man, if you guys need like maybe 17 copies of a Super Mario World manual, go to your local convention and you will easily be able to find 17 copies of Super Mario World.
Yes. Okay. Also, my investment advice is just maybe don't treat this like an investment. Treat this like your hobby. Treat it as something you enjoy. If you're an investor, like you're probably not listening to this channel because there's other podcasts and channels that you're probably going to for investment advice. This probably isn't your place. But if you just love games and you love the hobby, then just like keep that in the forefront of your mind and buy with that in mind and not with how much money you stand to make at the end.
And my real investment advice is to go get that $375,000 Zelda.
Yep. Okay. Tyler, did we do it? Did we answer all of the investment stuff?
We did not, because there are still questions from the Collector's Quest Discord we have yet to answer.
Oh, are these their own questions, or are these our collector's questions for the show?
They're Collector's questions for the show.
All right. Let's do it.
Tiger Wolf asks, what do you like best about Magic the Gathering? Do you collect, and why?
I love Magic the Gathering because I think it's an incredibly skill-based game that provides like kind of infinite challenge and infinite scenarios continuously and is ever evolving. I think collecting it is kind of a nightmare, but I still think that it provides so much for people who want to collect that I think it's fun. But first and foremost, the gameplay is paramount to me. That does not mean that I think you should go buy a commander deck and or make a commander deck full of proxies because I think the game is so fun. I think it's a TCG, so like, I don't know, buy the real cards. I mean, sure, you want to like learn about it before you commit hundreds of dollars to a deck. Yeah, I totally get that. But at some point, you have to spend some money. Like, come on.
I mean, I think if you like vintage cards, like I would just play with proxies. Like I'm not gonna buy a Mox Pearl, like a bullshit Mox, just to play vintage with you.
I mean, we could play online though. We could play online and be nothing.
No, I want to play with the real cards. I mean, I don't have anyone to play the real cards with.
Well, that's what my vintage cube is for, my man.
I mean, yeah, I'm there. I would want to play with real cards. Like I'm certainly not. I'm not going to police you if you have like proxies of literal $1,000 cards in your deck, though. If we're playing kitchen table,
obviously not. But I'm talking about like people who are just like, oh, I just proxy everything. I'm like, you proxied a $2 Soul Ring?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Is Soul Ring really $2? I guess they reprinted it.
Yeah, it's you could get a copy. You can spend as much money as you want on a Soul Ring, pretty much. It's like the Mario of Magic the Gathering cards.
Really?
Yeah, because it's printed for every commander set, and there's like a different art and stuff. But you could get into like, oh, well, this is the alpha one, this is the beta one. Oh, this one has a seal, or this is a special one from Fallout, and it's serialized. So I want, you can get any version of Soul Ring that you want. There's just like 100 different versions of it.
I mean, my favorite part of Magic is how different you can play depending on the slice of the color pie that you pick. I'm sorry, we're getting into Magic. Whatever, we're 3 hours into the episode. Just turn it off right now if you want.
Yeah,
but
you can be done.
I started with red, which was like this hyper aggressive color, and then you move into blue, and it's the total opposite. And I love blue, and I grew up at a time when not the contemporary decks, but like the historical decks that were popular were like Stasis and Winter Orb based decks, and like Ensnaring Bridge, like all these really lockdowny control cards that were super not fun to play against. And I really like the idea of locking the game down so much that almost neither player can have fun until I slowly grind out a win. It's just such a stupid way to play. And like in recent times, they've tried to make Magic not that, but I love how much Magic was that when I was playing it.
It's still, there are still things like that where it's just completely non-interactive Magic. I don't know. You can pretty much play Magic however you want, which is the nice thing.
Yeah. And then the second best thing is the concept of limited play. So limited is opening up booster packs basically and playing with the cards you get.
I love limited so much.
Because if in just a normal gambling sense, opening up a booster pack is just like a complete waste of money, because obviously the expected value of the cards that you're buying is less than the value of the booster packs. You're just losing money every time. It's like a slot machine. It's ridiculous. But if you then have to play 4 rounds with the cards that you get, then all of a sudden there's a purpose for you to actually open and get excited about what you get. And so it brings all the joy back to opening a pack of cards. So every time I play limited, it's super exciting.
Yeah, it changes the value structure of the game. If you're just opening packs to open them and you're like, oh, searching for a certain card for a deck because it's expensive, that's a different thing. If you're playing limited, the value of a card that's a common and not playable in a constructed deck suddenly skyrockets, because you're just like, this is so good and limited. This is like a top tier card in this format right now. And now I've got it. And that feels super good. And it's a card that has no value, no monetary value.
I've taken all the fun out of Constructed, so I imagine it's literally 100 times worse than how it was when I last played. I don't know. The last time I seriously played Legacy was maybe 10 years ago. And so the concept of playing Constructed, so Constructed is everyone's playing the same decks. There's basically like 6 decks and everyone's playing one of them. And so you're playing one of them, and then you know exactly how to play against the other 5 decks that are in rotation. And no one's going to be playing anything different. And so you just end up reading these articles and just like watching YouTube videos, like, how do I play correctly in all these different scenarios? And then like you get super good at playing this one deck because you've had someone else do all the research for you on exactly how to play it. And you've seen this deck play out in 100 different games against all these different decks, just so you know, like, all the interactions you got to look out for. And it's just like, it's like studying chess, dude. It's just like, what's the point? Yes. Like limited, you get like all these different dynamic interactions that you never see in Constructed, because you always see the same thing over and over in Constructed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of limited that like is kind of on rails, but it's just the infinite possibility. You just like, it feels like you have a lot more room for creativity and like ingenious moments of thought that will, make you win a game that in Constructed would never be possible, because everyone knows every single line down to a T.
And also, playing bad cards is fun.
Yes, it is.
And there was a great Nakey Jakey video, popular YouTuber Nakey Jakey, who was talking about how stealth games are mostly fun because they take the power away from you, and you're not sword-wielding Ryu the ninja who kills everything in one hit. Like, you suck in stealth games. Like, if you get seen, like, you might just get instantly killed, and that's fun because it makes it like tense and exciting. And that there's like a little bit of that in limited, because it's like, oh, my deck sucks now, but I still have to win with it. Oh, I love that. I don't play Magic enough, man, but this is getting me excited. I want to get a draft. Did you play Friday Night Magic? Did you skip Friday Night Magic for this podcast?
I did.
Oh my goodness. Look at Johnny here. Tiger Wolf, you're keeping Johnny from his main hobby.
I mean, video game collecting is still my main hobby, but yeah.
Viewmaster collecting, though.
Yeah, I was like, I figured you were either going to tell me today or tomorrow was the time to record. And so I was either going to miss out on Star Wars or I was going to miss out on Magic. But I knew I had to miss one.
Oh, you're playing Star Wars tomorrow? You nerd.
Yeah.
You would go to the card shop 2 days back to back. I don't think... Actually, you know, in like my peak Magic playing, I would probably do back to back if there was like a pre-release.
Dude,
So.
Yeah, at a pre-release, I could be there for 4 days straight.
Guys, Magic's crazy.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah, the other thing is it's where you can go be ultra competitive, but you don't have to be a dick, you know? Like, you can just be your most competitive self, but not have to be an asshole about it. Like, you can just like,
You're going
all
to
right,
play dicks, though.
You are. I mean, a lot of times I have like a really good shop and we don't like really have that problem. But yeah, it's like,
All right, so not dicks, but like every time I'm at like Friday Night Magic, I play someone who's annoyed that they're losing. And it's like, what, dude, we're here to have fun. What, you're annoyed you're losing? It's a card at best, like the best players in the world win like the absolute best, like freaks of nature win like 70% of their games. And you're like getting annoyed that you're losing one game?
It's less than that. I mean, and that's like their value stream of them thinking like how good they are. They just have like these false ideas baked into themselves. Yeah. There are people who are dumb, but I love when people get salty. Like, oh man, are you getting salty? You just feed me your salt. Just delicious. I will lap that up. Hey, yeah. I can't wait till you come out here. I'm going to take you to Friday Night Magic with me. We're going to do some things, Tyler.
All right.
I'm going to bring guys over and we're going to fire off a vintage draft. You're going to be so happy.
Johnny, those are the collector's questions.
All right, we did it. Tyler, let's move on to that second half of the show. It's an old joke. Let's talk about what you're buying and what you're playing.
Oh, I got something good, I think.
Oh, did you? You said you got something expensive.
It is pretty expensive, but not that expensive because it's an upgrade. I got a complete in-box. It looks new in-box. Nintendo Super System, Super Mario World, with the little mini marquee inlay.
Ooh.
Whoa. Tyler, what are you talking about? What is that? When the SNES came out, there was an arcade cabinet that basically played Super Nintendo games on quarters. And didn't run SNES cartridges, it run their own bespoke PCBs that you plugged into like a motherboard. And so these were distributed in the same exact size box as the PlayChoice 10 games. They are rarer, I think, just because PlayChoice 10 was fairly popular. And I remember being really excited that I found one of these, like, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I posted on Instagram. I'm like, look at me, I'm the fucking coolest who has the Super Mario World thing. And then I forgot what I was browsing. I was browsing PlayChoice listings because there are a lot of PlayChoice games I want. And this came up, and I realized I didn't have the inlay. And this is like super nice. It's got like the baggie that's still, it looks like it's never been taken out of the box. Like the inlay is still in there. And they make repro inlays. And I could tell that this one is real. So that's a big pain in the ass. And so I got that. And I got it for like a lot less than my max bid. And it's great because if you already have something, there's kind of two mindsets that you fall into. One, I already have this thing. Like, I used to be like panicked save searching for this thing. And now that I have it, I could sit back and relax. And if like an amazing deal falls into my lap for an upgrade, I'll take it. That's fine. Or the second mindset you could have is, well, I'll just pay whatever for this upgrade because I could just turn around and sell the first one I had, and whatever I pay is going to bump the price of the one that I'm eventually going to sell. So I went for that second one, but then I didn't even bump the price that much. So if anyone needs an incomplete Nintendo Super System Super Mario World, the rarest version of Super Mario World, I got you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I need it. Let's go.
And Johnny, I started Earthbound.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm always playing NES games that I haven't played, and I'm branching out. I'm branching out to the RPGs. I played so many NES RPGs this year. I've never even significantly played Earthbound. I'm already further than I've ever been in Earthbound.
How many hours are you in?
I don't know, maybe 8.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. It's quirky. It's a bizarre PG. The genre name, we all have to call it bizarre PG, guys.
We're not doing that.
It's my favorite bizarre PG.
Okay, I'm glad you're experiencing Earthbound. It's like I want to do a whole episode based on this. Games that are expensive, but people say are worth it, and that's why they're expensive, because they're so good that you should chill out. And Earthbound is typically lumped into this conversation. And once you finish, I want to talk about what you feel about Earthbound after.
Okay, I will definitely do that. I am concerned going in. I realize that this game has been frozen in time since like 1994 or something. I'm concerned that I'm an enormous Undertale fan. I've played through it multiple times, every ending. I don't think there's a possible universe in which Earthbound can be better than Undertale. It seems like it's going to be an interesting RPG in a unique setting. I like that it's like a modern sci-fi story rather than the most generic anime high fantasy story ever. So
yeah,
it's cool.
Okay, I'm glad you're buying and playing some cool stuff right now.
What are you getting, Johnny?
Well, I didn't get anything real exciting. I got some stuff from Japan that hasn't arrived yet, which is part of the problem. And that's Halloween stuff.
Got a fake game collector who's really just mainly a Magic and Star Wars card collector.
No, really the money this time around my wife was spending the money, and she bought some Hot Toys. So, what are you going to do?
Hot Toys?
Star Wars figures.
What Hot Toys? Star Wars?
Yes. Yeah.
Which things? Like from which era? Like what kind of things are we talking about?
She bought Clone Commander, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Mandalorian. Okay,
so that's like the 3D show era.
Yeah, but this is
not like when the thing came out. I mean, like what it's representing.
Yes, it's what it represents, but it's done in a realistic style for the Hot Toy. And another thing from the Clone Wars era, she bought Mandalorian disguise Obi-Wan Kenobi. She doesn't have an Obi-Wan Kenobi thing. She just likes clone troopers, and she likes Mandalorians, and this happened to be at the same time.
I don't know if you feel this way, but I could never do this because, like, I realize, like, set collecting is a trap and just get the things you like, but when it comes to toys, like, it just feels like it never ends. Like, whether I limit myself to a set or just the things I like on, say, Super Nintendo, I feel like that will eventually end, where with toys, it just never ends.
Yeah, I don't know if it ever ends, and this year has been particularly crazy for this is 1/6 scale, guys. If you don't know what this is 1/6 scale figure collecting.
Does that mean
this
big?
year they've
like, was that like a couple feet?
1 foot,
1
basically.
foot? Okay. Oh,
yeah, most people are.
There you go. You're 6 feet tall.
Yeah. Just imagine everything is like about a foot tall. It's madness. Hot Toys has released more figures than they ever have in a year, but the collectibles market is down for this. So lots of things that are being pre-ordered and like people are paying full price for these figures. They go over $200, these figures, some closer to $300, but once they're hitting like people's hands and people are trying to flip them, they're losing money. They're like a $250 figure is going for $200. This kind of drop off is happening immediately. It's not like a figure that just sold bad and sat around forever and was offered a bunch of setup on. This is like everything is like kind of in the dog pile, unless it is these exclusive figures like this Hot Toys Mandalorian Obi-Wan. The Clone Commander was not that, but it was fairly in demand figure. So, and with the low print runs. Yeah. Anyways, it's crazy out there. They're expensive. It never ends. Hot Toys is releasing a bunch. Sideshow is now releasing a bunch of their own. Sideshow is both a distributor. They distribute Hot Toys, but they also sometimes make their own figures, but noticeably worse than Hot Toys. And now they're releasing a bunch too. it's an expensive hobby, and it takes up a lot of room. And you are correct; it doesn't feel like it will ever stop. And my wife is already like, I think we need new shelves for this area.
Didn't you buy like crazy, like industrial, like display shelves for these?
I bought these things called a Maju case for them specifically because they're like the case. So it's like, you know, they're way overpriced, entirely overpriced. You could probably get 75 to 85% of the way there with like an industrial standard shelf and call it good for 1/3 of the cost. But that's not what we're doing here. My wife's like, I think I want Maj cases for these because we have like IKEA Billies with like glass doors, but the glass doors don't display well because they like basically cut the center, so you have no center display because these bezels on these doors are too big, and it's like we could replace all the doors, but then it doesn't really net her any more room. It's a nightmare. And it's funny because, like, as much as I like Star Wars toys and I bought some of these initially, like, mainly this is my wife's collection. I mean, we do it together, but, like, this is mainly her thing. So.
I can't imagine what I would do if Ada collected. Like, how could 2 collectors in one household just seems like a problem? Like, 1 collector on our scale is a problem.
Well, but here's the thing. Like, she goes through, like, waves it. She's like, oh, I just want a bunch of these now. I'm like, okay. But, like, what happens, too, is they just come out for pre-order. And she's like, okay, well, it's got, like, a 1-year pre-order, so I'll just do the payment plan. And just, like, it's, like, $20 to $60 a month comes out. And then, like, until it gets released. But it's, like, 1 year to 18-month release window or something. So it's just like, oh, okay. And that seems fine until you have, like, 25 on pre-order at once.
This just sounds crazy. I don't approve of this at all. I'm just gonna say this sounds like Funko Pop for people with too much money.
They're better than Funko Pops because at least they look cool. The thing I like about them best, Tyler, actually, is that they come in these like cardboard shoebox style, right? And they're not really sealed. I mean, their shipper boxes are sealed, but the box, the toy box itself, you can just pull it out and like you can see it, and then if you don't like it, you can put it right back in its like neat little box. Yeah, I like that aspect of it a lot.
So they don't come sealed, so you like that you're encouraged to actually display it rather than just hold it and keep it sealed and not enjoy your $400 Star Wars toy.
Yep.
All right.
So yeah, let's get some poses. What I hate is figures that they make with multiple heads. Stop it. I wish they would stop. Stop making figures with multiple heads.
I see a lot of heads for sale that are like literally $100.
Yep. Oh, it's like, oh, you want this head? You want to display this head? It's like some of them are just entirely different figures. They're like, okay, like this guy's a trooper with this helmet on, but with this helmet on, he's a main character. You're just like, no, stop it. This is like 2 different characters now. Now it's like my wife is like, well, are they 2 different characters? Do I need to buy 2? I'm like, stop it. Stop it.
I feel like that cheapens it if you're saying that it's so interchangeable. These characters are so interchangeable that they're only different in the heads.
Well, some of them are clones, right? So it kind of
fuck off.
Right? So, and that's the thing. And those are her favorite. Clone troopers are like her favorite. That and stormtroopers, she loves troopers. So it's just like,
you know, I take it cooler.
Back. That's not her favorite. Droids are her actual favorite. If it's an astromech, that's like the best thing. Or a little droid. Little droids, peak.
I mean, little droid. I mean, Ada's not even a collector, but we have one of the very cute Star Wars droids.
Which one?
Legos. I don't.
BD-1?
I don't freaking know which one.
Is it BD-1, the one that like has a little head tilt?
BD-1 droid. Yep, that's the one.
Yep.
Yep, we got that Star Wars set.
It's super cute. There's the little red figure that comes with it, you know, right on its little display stand.
What, the figure of itself?
Yes.
Like the minifigure? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that sells for like $20.
30.
What the fuck? That whole set was like $85.
I know. I just bought one for Carly because she was like, I really need this BD-1. I'm like, okay.
Like, I'm down with that. Like, this is so much more reasonable than Hot Toys. It's the same size and like a fifth of the price.
This BD-1 looks great. It didn't get a lot of love initially, but yeah, it's a great set. Perfectly encapsulates the droid, and it's video game related because it's from Jedi Survivor or Jedi. that's the Jedi Survivor Series.
Was it? Okay, she thought it was from one of the I think we thought it was from something from The Mandalorian, and then she looked it up and was sad when it wasn't.
It is in Mandalorian. So, and then there's a Lego set that has the blue lined one. The minifigure is in blue because that's how you see it in Mandalorian. But its first appearance is the video games. There you go.
Very cool. Don't buy toys, guys. Don't buy Legos, definitely. I think we've had people speaking to us recently, like, should we get into Lego? Well, like, Strange in the Discord. Someone wanted to get into Lego. That's a trap. Don't do it. What are you doing? Like, dollar. So you are in the hobby. If you play video games, the cheapest hobby is mindlessly rotting your brain scrolling TikTok and YouTube. But if we're going to say something more than that, all right, we can probably go into hiking and some other free hobbies, Johnny. But video games, $1 per hour. Man, one of the cheapest hobbies there is. Civilization 7 is coming out, and it's $70 goddamn dollars for the base version. And they have a special edition that only has digital extras for $130. And if you buy the $130 Civ and you actually play through all of it, that will be still one of the best values per money that you could spend doing anything. On top of that, you can get an equivalent experience by playing Civ 4, which is currently $3 on Steam. I have played Civ 4 for hundreds of hours. It is $3. And then you're going to move to Lego, where you buy like a $400 Lego set and you build it in 2.5 hours, and you're like, whew, that was a lot faster than I thought it would take.
Yeah. Yes, do that.
And then you're stuck with this stupid thing, and you have to start buying Modu cases to store all your damn Lego sets because you have too many Lego sets.
Well, the Modu cases are for the hot toys, but yes.
I want to be idle rich. Like, I love building Legos. Building Legos is obviously super fun. It's just like the worst value in anything. So I want to buy the cool new Lego set. I want to buy that NES. I want to buy that Nintendo question mark block. That's kind of stupid. All that stuff. Let me build it and then hand it off to my butler, and he will deal with storing it forever in like a different, like an outbuilding. And then when I want to, I can go to that outbuilding and enjoy all the Lego sets I've built. But otherwise, they don't interrupt my life.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of how we do it. It's like we usually build it, enjoy it for a little while, look at it, and then we break it down into bags and label the bags and put it in a box.
But then they're just living in a box.
Yeah. But, I mean, you can't display everything. You just can't do it. I got Borodor for Father's Day, and it's fucking gigantic. What am I supposed to do with this thing?
I bet at some point on this podcast we have said something to the effect of, like, if you can't display it, why do you own it?
Legos.
You know what? Maybe we haven't said that, but that is a sentiment that some people have.
Yeah. I'm like, Legos is about the process of building, too. Not, like, I enjoy the process of building. I find it relaxing and calming just to, like, sit there and build a thing, look at it, and then be like, I'm satisfied. I don't need to. I'm not a person who needs to, like, this needs to live in my house always. I enjoyed it, and then if I want to redo it, it's beautiful because it's Lego. You can go redo it.
Are there people who make custom Lego stuffs, like My Own Creations, I guess they're called, who like
Mocks,
really
yeah.
look down on people who follow the instructions and think they're like doing something wrong?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, I'm sure there's somebody in that sentiment, but a lot of people like Lego sets, and then they like to mock around it or mock onto it.
Oh, is it because like all the buildings they sell are like half buildings and you have to build the entire back half?
Sometimes, but sometimes they're just like, oh, it wasn't a good enough version, or it wasn't big enough, so I want to expand it, or it didn't capture these other side little details, so I want to do more and more. So, yeah.
What else we got, Johnny? Is that the show?
That's it. That's the whole show.
Talking about Lego. Hey, welcome to After Dark.
Yeah. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you for everyone who gave us these questions. Thank you if you are a Patreon double, because we really appreciate that you spend your hard-earned money with us. If you want to do that and be on our Discord and hang out there, with all the best people. You can do that by going to patreon.com/collectorsquest. It's $4 and you get the After Dark and our Discord with that. And that's the only tier. That's all we do. Yeah, Tyler. So that's the whole episode. You got anything else you want to throw out there, or am I closing us up?
Close it out.
All right, everyone. That's it for the show. Thanks for listening.